What's up? What you're talking about? So we are on another stream, 151 today. Slowly moving up there. It's kind of crazy to watch them go one by one. Every day a different theme. Gotta do something about the light. This looks terrible. Let me see. Maybe if I turn off the. I think maybe that's better. Ooh, that's way too harsh. I'm gonna invest in a. Well, I technically have a professional setup. I just don't have it set up all the time. I need to just. There we go. I feel like it's way too hard. Just like type CBRO, Simon. Greetings indeed. Thing goes 33. Love the handle. Curtis. Oh, Danny boy. Oh, no. The pipes are singing something, right? Is this an Irish song or is that a Scottish song? I think it's an Irish song, right? I think it's a sand song, isn't it? It's about death. So hopefully you don't know something I don't. What's up, Carlin? Why doesn't it allow me to just see? Love the profile picture. Love the hair. Very hot. Beautiful. Spot on. Word go on. I wish I would have a voice for singing. That would be awesome. Grr. Anna. Nico! Makes me super happy to see your name coming up, brother. We're gonna run an experiment with this light, but I feel like this light is way too harsh. But the other way, just terrible. It makes it look so green and awful. Carmen Rosa. Привет. Day 151. The dedication is commendable. Yeah, I wish it would be in a row. I had a meditation retreat in the middle, so we skipped 10 days after about 22 of them. And then I did have definitely a few leap days because of traveling and also recently because of a lot of accumulation of things. But I appreciate the noticing it. It definitely started from can I show up every day? But now it's almost every day. What's up, Christopher? Regards from down under. Looking forward as usual every night. Amazing. Every night. Amazing. I'm honored. Ryan Smith is saying, so does the refracted laser experiment implicate our conscious reality is just as base, lying under psychedelic effect, at least to some degree? No, because at least from what I'm seeing, there is no base reality. There's no outside of the simulation, so to speak. There's only computational space, and all the simulations inside the computational space, I guess you can think of them in terms of parallel worlds. That would be closer to what the structure seems to be entailing. But yeah, that's a really good question, because it would, if it would think that there's a base reality. I don't think there's base reality. I think that idea is a little bit surprisingly incoherent. It is a fractal. Well, in a fractal, you still have the original fractal. So I guess that would be base reality. Christopher says he loves all these perspectives, and I appreciate you. Okay. Oh, we advanced to D1 today. What a crazy thing. We were already, I think, at C3 on TikTok, and then it jumped back to D in some weird way, and now we're finally getting to D1 again. Dana McQueen, how are you? Okay, welcome to Simulation Talk 151. the channel that revolves around the simulation hypothesis. My name is Danny, and I'm claiming to have found actual proof that we live in a simulation. And we're here almost every single night discussing the implications of the experiment that I've proposed that shows us code behind a laser. And we talk about science in religion and spirituality and God. And as of 2 days ago, food fetishes. What is up with the console? I do not know. I haven't visited the space since. And at this point, I'm starting to feel the pressure about the new console video, which I don't blame you guys. I told you about that thing maybe months ago. So I know it's annoying. I just truly, I have to stabilize the project. As you notice, I'm only putting out some interviews, and even that is very rarely because I just have too many things in a day, and I'm still trying to figure out the process, the way to do it in a way that is sustainable. The entities told me there is no baseline reality. There you go. But it will come out eventually. It will. The space has been weird lately. That is correct. That's interesting that you noticed that. Tell me in what way it was weird for you, because I've even noticed that they kind of closing a lot of entry points. Like, it's not that easy to enter the space. Either things kind of go, not as planned, so it kind of prevents you from going in in the first place, or when you go in, not much happens, which is interesting. And this seems to be for a lot of people. Yeah, doors are closing, exactly. What a cheerful guy you are, Melted Juice. It's unprovable. Give up, because all the people in history that were told to give up did. What's up, NG Ray? Van Dweller, how are you? Raphael, how many people did not see the code with you? I don't know. I've never had anybody really try. Like, I only count the people who really tried, right? I don't count the people that like came in and tried to do it for 5 minutes or 10 minutes and had a hard time and they didn't see it. I don't count these people because you really sometimes, if it takes a little longer, you got to kind of stay with it, and it can take up to 1 or 2 hours. So I would say maybe two that I can count that truly, really, really tried and couldn't see it. Much love back to you, Ben. Good to see you. Einstein was called a loser in college. Loser. Can't even figure out the field equations. That's what they used to say. And then he did. He did figure out the field equations, even though he didn't solve them, but still. Good to see you, Ben. Glad to have you here. Edgy. Edgy's in the house. How you doing, Van Dweller? Do you think Earth is a training ground for consciousness? Think of how we would need to train AI to coexist and not lie to us or harm us. All conscious beings must learn how to coexist with others. I think yes. I have a video. In fact, when you get to my YouTube channel, first video is called the one that is in the kind of like in the title of the channel. It says, "Are we AGI?" And that's exactly about that. Let me do a quick intro. Welcome to Simulation Talk 151. The channel revolves all things around all things simulation. My name is Danny, and I'm claiming to have found actual proof that we live in simulation. We've been here almost every single day to discuss a lot of fun topics, like the simulation itself, as well as science, religion, spirituality, philosophy, God, whatever comes to mind. If you want to check out my YouTube channel, if you are on TikTok, it's Dango Thoughts, Dango Thoughts, because all my longer format videos are there, and you can check them out. It's I've also added a membership program on YouTube that includes early access to all my videos, as well as weekly lives aside from the daily lives, and Zoom calls with me, with group members, and even private, depending on the tier of the membership. Aside from that, I've also added some videos about my private life, and I'm going to be adding a lot more soon, and they will only live on the membership program on YouTube. I appreciate all the members that have already joined. It allows me to focus more and more on this project full time, and I really appreciate you people. There's some incredible people like Ebony and Ben who are gifting memberships almost every single day in which they're showing up. And that is extremely helpful because it also helps to grow the channel faster. And my job now is to create good enough of a content for people to want to stay. And I will do my best. So I think that's all the housekeeping we need to do. Appreciate everybody here. Also the parts of the people in the community. Welcome to everybody on TikTok and on X and Twitch and YouTube. And if you feel like it, please give it a like or give it a love, or whatever it is that on your platform is available, because it definitely helps the channel to tickle the algorithms to make it available to more people. Thank you, guys. I'm buying the laser parts. I'll check back, my man. Thanks for what you are doing for the space, I guess. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, DGK2000. Oh, and yeah, if you want to check out more about the project and what we're doing, that would be in codeofreality.com. Check out codeofreality.com. That will be the address to all things simulation, including the protocol, the lasers, and everything else. Other ways to have similar effects with the laser, like a dye version I can make. I'm not sure what you mean by that, 5D viewer. Vendwell is saying, did more experiments today and definitely think it's my vision, but code is more clear to me when laser is vertical. That is very interesting. It is very interesting to me. Peace be with you as well, brother. I'm in LA. Thank you, Michael. Peace be with you as well. There's a psychedelic church. There's a psychedelic church in my state. I plan on doing a 5 injection. I'd love to try one day. Whoa, that's a heavy one. I'm going to try and align more lasers vertically so I can widen the view and maybe be able to focus with both my eyes. Interesting. That is hardcore. Opinion on Wim Hof breathing. I love it. I always do Wim Hof breathing right before the session. I do at least 2 to 4 rounds. It helps reset the energy for me. Nathan is saying, I built the laser and tried with 5. I have not been able to see anything. Yeah, I don't know. Something tells me that with the 5, it's going to be a big challenge. Also, DGK2000, if you're still there, after you do the experiment, it would be cool if you fill out the report on the website. It's very useful because we're using that information for quite a few things. I don't think it's coincidental that we're all alive at the time where technology is advancing to the point of possibly AGI. I think you and I are both part of something bigger. Just you and I? Everybody else are not? We are so lucky. Spent a couple of hours on it. Wow. Too much time has passed and now nothing makes sense about this. What do you mean by that? One second. Can you make me the matcha? Unless you really. How are you, Ben? Good to have you. Whoa, James. Think you need to take a chill pill, bro. Yeah, wrong vibes, brother. Calm down. And to your question, yeah, you got to explain because I have no idea what you're talking about. Well, you know what's more frustrating? When somebody tells you that they're frustrated and they don't tell you why. Drago said, "I'm so frustrated." What are these lasers about? Well, I proposed a few years ago that if you project a diffracted laser on the surface and you ingest the spirit molecule, you will see code running in surfaces. And this has now been verified by multiple individuals across the world. Because of the code under what we can't talk about, how there's nothing understood yet. James, do you know how long it takes to make progress in science, let alone with something that was just discovered? You thought that it's going to be like major progress again in like a few months? I mean, if it happens, that's going to be a miracle. String theory still didn't make any progress for the last 40 years. 40. No, I can do only one side. Papers before movies. 650 nanometers diffracted. You can go to codeofreality.com and it lists the exact type of laser, but you can also see it in the videos that I'm putting out. It's been a long time since it was discovered. Well, no, it was discovered 3 years ago, and that's not a long time. And also, we did make progress. We discovered that magnets perturb it, and now I've proposed a new experiment with magnets, and I've submitted it to a few organizations that run scientific experiments. So there's definitely progress. Oh yeah, it will take forever. Yeah, it's been what, 3.5 years maybe since the discovery or the beginning of that discovery, and now we are in dawn of a new type of experimentation. Were you aware of the magnet stuff, James? Can you do a wider laser to see more? You just going to need to widen the aperture of the diffraction, but without diffraction, it's not going to work. So if you're going to use a regular laser pointer, and you're going to go back and expand it, it's not going to work. We need to go to CERN and smoke on the laser beam there. Now that's going to be some code. Smashing idea. Smashing is such a great word. Thank you, Bob. No, no, I got it. This is good. Appreciate it, baby. Is radiation the key? What do you mean by radiation, Karnimata? And the key to what? To understand something? Cosmo definitely wants to see the code. Did you like my camera work? It was great. I think you're upside down at one point. My brother worked at CERN. Look up Logan Richardson. I mean, that's cool. Logan Richardson is your brother? Uh, is your last name not Gomez? Or is it Logan Richardson Gomez? Blair Witch Project. Or Bourne. I wrote it in the description. The Bourne Identity. That's the camera of Jason Bourne. Ah, different. That's cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I know some people who worked for CERN. That's amazing. What's up, only Zeus 13? Hey, greetings from Chile. I know you're from somewhere. I love Chile. I've been there once. Where in Chile? There's a very small number of enlightened people that want to learn this knowledge, but the gatekeepers of society want to suppress us from it, sadly. I'm not so sure. I think that the truth is that nobody really knows anything. I think that's a much closer explanation to what's going on. Has anyone ever mentioned that red laser beam emit non-ionized radiation? Can you be more specific? So everything is radiating. That's why I'm asking. You're radiating right now. Everything that emits light to any degree is radiating. Somebody said, "I know you. You have a brother just like you." No, I don't. Or maybe I do. Maybe I am my brother. I think it's possible that people who have a hard time seeing the code could potentially have an easier time seeing it if the laser vertical. Yeah, I don't think so. No offense, but I don't think so. I mean, that would be a cool trick. I'm definitely not against trying it. I think everybody should try it. But the truth is that a lot of people that are trying it, they're trying it with the X. So they have the vertical version available to them. And actually, most people see it not in the vertical, but in the other one. Consider sharing this with some yogis or sadhus in India or Buddhists. That would be cool. Gravity German tech. That German tech, man, sounds amazing. I focused on the center point of the beam and rotated the laser while looking at the code, and it went out of focus when the laser became horizontal. I think it has something to do with your vision. But I mean, again, anybody who's having a hard time, definitely try this. It's just that, again, for a lot of people, there's the cross, and the cross has both. Um, UV, no, I haven't tried it yet with UV. Diamagnetic materials, definitely. So yeah, bismuth is going to be one of my next candidates to play with, big time. The code exists. It's just a matter of what it means. You can do this off cough syrup. And watch the blinds when you're at the third platitude or above. Watch the James? What do you mean by watch the blinds? Violet light has the highest energy, while red light has the lowest. Right. So you don't need to go all the way to violet. You can go to blue and green, and you see more energy. But the code is the same. So what do you think you will achieve with that? My brother worked here in Windows. Maybe he has. Hey James. Oh, thank you so much for your contribution. I appreciate you, brother. Yeah, I understand that you're passionate about it. But yeah, I mean, progress, brother, takes a long time. It's just how things go. That's why we got to be patient. But again, I don't know if you heard my question. Did you know about the magnet thing? Because the magnet is definitely a development. We didn't know this before. The fact that the code is influenced by magnets. And now there's a whole new experiment that I've submitted also to Tom Campbell's team that involves magnets, which I think will give us a big breakthrough. Maybe the code is the strings in string theory. I highly doubt it. I think maybe it's the Ruliad by Wolfram. Shining a laser through water, just a theory. I wonder what would show. Yeah, we have that in the experimentation. It just helps. It just helps seeing it a little better. Refraction, the refraction index of water seems to be helping it. I have seen you before. You had a lot of cats, all in caps. Why are you yelling? So you've seen me in Chile with a lot of cats, and my brother works for Windows. Got it. Can you share how the code is organized? Is it a vertical or horizontal lines? The only thing I felt like I could see was what looked like a soup of little sticks. So look at the sticks, Nathan. It's not arranged, not vertically and not horizontally. It's more like an organic tapestry. And these sticks, look closer, you will see that they're basically the different parts of the code just passing across one another, rotating, moving, doing all kinds of things. Keep looking closer. That's the thing that you will see. Magnetic interaction, really, that's a breakthrough. It's a breakthrough because we can see that finally we can use something to influence the code's visibility. We couldn't do any of that before. This is the first time that we can. Yev, how are you, brother? Good to see you. Yev is back. Appreciate you, man. Send you an invite as well. How you doing, brother?
Hey, bro.
Good to hear from you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly.
Good. That's a nice live here.
The what? The what?
You got a good live going.
Yeah, man. I can't complain. It's kind of nice. We're just sitting here hanging out with some people. Oh, Carter is saying, not an invasion, combination of existing technology with a non-traditional method. Wait, I think I missed a bunch of comments. Were you following any of this? I'm asking you. My brother works.
Me?
Yeah, there's a lot of comments. I guess I missed. What kind of code did you see? You can watch the videos on the subject, Ronnie. The code looks kind of like Japanese katakana. I forget. Yeah, did you Talk about synchronicity detecting experiments, same hoops to jump. Um, did
Same
you?
hoops, like organizationally, scientifically, like organizing the experiment, experimental design. But like it's coming, they're gonna prove it.
Prove what?
Prove synchronicity.
Oh yeah, for
So
sure. Because
yeah,
because it's happening.
well,
So for sure you can
because
tell.
it's true. Yeah,
Yeah,
because it's real.
exactly.
But
I forget
but
before you dive in. I forget. Did you see the code when we were in the thing?
so I didn't see the code.
Interesting.
But well, so I once told my friend who's like an engineer and an automotive engineer that I drive by intuition instead of sensing, and he found that funny. So like my sensory, like I'm not necessarily, I don't know. I wasn't surprised that I couldn't see it, and maybe I wasn't motivated to see it because I already believed in the simulation. So I'm like not really, like I'm not trying to prove something to myself. I don't know. It could be anything. It could be like what I was trying to ask you, like maybe there's some, like you have to have some brains who just can't see it. That's probably that has to be the case because
No, it doesn't have to be the case. Because I'm claiming that it's just kind of like saying there's some brains that not supposed to see some random object. I don't think it's like that at all. I think it just has to do with how people cast their attention. I've had now multiple people who were having a hard time, and then you just give them a little pointers, and then they're like, "Oh, okay." Like literally, it's they didn't realize they were just looking at it wrong. And
I would try again for sure.
yeah. Just a quick thing to outline for somebody here because I think it is important. Um, Michael is saying magnetic interaction really that's the breakthrough, and then he said, "Oh no, this is somebody else." Daniel was saying this is a psi phenomena for me. Yeah, so the reason it can't be is because it's influenced by physical elements now. And again, the experiment is very simple, but it proves the point. So basically, if you project a laser on a magnet, it seems like the code scrambles only when the magnet is present. And then even if you put a paper across it like this, and you don't drop the magnet, but
Is
if you
there a
drop the
physical
magnet, then
theory behind
the what?
behind this?
The what?
Like, do you have a theory for why it's doing that?
Yeah, I will tell you in a moment. So, so when you put the magnet, the way you verifies is you put the magnet behind the paper, and then if you see, because now you have no information about the magnet, you don't know where the magnet is. Well, in this case, you see where my hand is, right? But if you make the paper big enough, then you have no idea where the magnet is, right? And you can make the paper as big as the room, and that's what I'm proposing now in the experimentation. So then you have zero information about where I am, let's pretend, and the magnet, okay? But if the paper is thin enough, if I project a laser on the other side and I smoke DMT, whoa, sorry, I'm not supposed to say that. I think we're gonna get flagged now. But and I smoke the spirit molecule, then you will see the scrambling from the other side of the paper. So you're gonna see code, scramble, code. So what you're essentially proving is that you have real information that you're seeing because it's a binary. You see a change, you getting information about where the magnet is. So basically, there's an effect that is happening, so you're seeing the effect and nothing else. So if I then, on the other side where I am in the experiment, if I start moving the magnet like this, and then the other person is with their finger just tracing exactly where I'm moving the magnet, I mean, you're proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that somebody's seeing something that they're not supposed to be seeing because they don't have visual information about the magnet coming through. Now, if you could recognize this without the molecule, then you can say there must be some kind of an effect between the light and the magnetism that is doing that. But I don't think the magnet is powerful enough to produce something like this without you actually being on the molecule. Now, this will need verification. What I think is happening is that the reason we see the code is because you get, I guess, access to more frames per second of reality itself. And then you see this extra content that is related to what the core of reality is doing. So now magnetism and electromagnetism, light, are basically fundamental forces. And because of that, you can see some of the changes to the code. Now, my bigger theory, which is a much bigger leap of faith, but we're going to test it as well, is that if you crank up the magnetism even more and you put it around the diode, you will see the code jump to another stable state. So instead of it being scrambled, it will first scramble and then we'll go to some kind of a new stable state that you haven't seen before. And if I can reproduce that across many, many individuals, that is very, very substantial. And the thought there that it's kind of like in a chladni plate, in somatics, when you vibrate the sand on a plate.
Mm-hmm.
So if you crank up the frequency, first it goes into chaotic state, and then it goes into a new structure. So exactly like that. So basically, this magnet is not enough.
Have you seen it already? You're saying you've seen it already?
No, that I haven't seen already. No, that's a hypothesis at the moment. Yes, but we definitely saw it being scrambled by the code by multiple individuals by the magnet.
That's interesting. That's really so. Did you know that? So there's two things that could be going on simultaneously too, because DMT, the molecule,
the spirit molecule,
could make you perceive magnetic fields. Period.
But that's also would be a crazy discovery.
Yeah, well, it is. So lean into that because they.
Yeah, as far as I can tell, it doesn't. So okay, I tried it in a lot of different ways. It doesn't. So, or at least to me, it definitely didn't. What the claim was with L, the other one that I also can't say, the one that starts with L. That one, Persinger did some studies in the 70s, and he claimed that people could see the magnetic field in the dark without seeing where the magnets are. But with the spirit molecule, that didn't happen. Does that make sense? I think it disappeared.
Oh, no, I'm still there. I'm still here. I was just looking for an article because there's a recent article, like very strong scientific finding that people subconsciously perceive magnetic fields. So, like, this is now beyond scientific doubt. But
we know we can, yeah, very slightly, yeah. I thought you said see magnetic fields. That's different.
Yeah, that is different. Yeah, that is different.
Carly is saying, so you want to discuss? What would you like to discuss, Carly? Also, Crystal, how are you? Good to see you.
I mean, it's different, but it's not different because with a lot of these senses, so they're subconscious, and it could just be a level that your subconsciousness is detecting, but consciously you're not. So, like, maybe
say it again.
So it could still be an oscillation in the visual field, but you're not consciously detecting it. So you can see it across experiments that people are kind of acting as if they're led by the magnetic field, but they're not aware of it consciously. But if you dial it up, it shows up in the visual field. So that's possible.
I see. And so basically, it makes itself apparent after you crank up enough of the power of it.
Yes, or it crank enough your power with the molecule.
Also, Eric, feel free to share that. That would be cool. You know my email, right? And no, I have not studied NDEs. Do you know much about NDEs? Yeah.
NDEs.
Near DEATH.
No, it just came up today in that conversation with Alexander Wendt I told you about. It was a great conversation, although at some point I said, and I'm not crazy, right? And he didn't really respond.
That's debatable. About all of us.
I didn't get like a reassuring confirmation. He's like, you're clearly brilliant. I'm like, thank you.
One of these like teetering on the line of insanity.
I remember you once said, like, either I'm the most stable schizophrenic person I've met, or this thing is real. So it was kind of like that. And he was like, "Yep, might be. you might be. You might be the most stable, articulate, crazy person."
I'm gonna take a sip of that matcha because otherwise, SL to your question. Everybody who does see it, the moment they see it, it seems that yeah, they're seeing the same thing. At least descriptively, they do. No, Miss Main. Alice and Dimitri. That yeah, these are good names. Have you tried looking at the code through a magnifying glass? Yes, it works. What about setting up a mirror and trying to see the code in the reflection? You mean you mean the light the laser you're gonna get in your eye? Do not do it with mirrors. I don't know why people insist on saying that. You will just get a laser in your eye, just like you would project it from the laser directly, basically. Please don't do it with mirrors. I think it should be obvious, but apparently it isn't. Yeah, don't do it with mirrors. I can't emphasize this enough. You can potentially play with mirrors and do all kinds of interesting things in the way that we arrange the light, and do some quantum effects experiments. But definitely do not project the laser on a mirror and then try and see what you're seeing. You're just gonna get a laser in your eye. And also, because the question with the mirror, it's kind of similar to the question of take the laser to a sacred location or a particular material. So far it seems to be that the laser is just not that kind of thing. Sorry, the code doesn't seem to be that kind of thing. It doesn't seem like the code will change in a sacred location, or in anything that you might think has some kind of a spiritual significance. It seems to just be a physical phenomena. Like you can, and I know that if we're looking at it from the more occult or spiritual perspective, it's there's a tendency to maybe almost reject the physical idea at all. But I think it's a little bit too soon to do that. I think some things you can easily consider them physical without betraying any spiritual pursuit. The wall is a physical thing, even if you believe that ultimately it's some kind of an illusion or it's some kind of a part of a larger universal mind. Right now, for what you are, the wall is a wall. You cannot walk through it, and that's an important component of what's going on right now, and that needs to be taken into account. Did you want to say something about it?
Oh, sorry. Oh,
I thought no, because
no.
I heard you start talking, and then
Oh, no, I didn't. But I would say that if you were a cult, then you would only see a laser at a retreat in Costa Rica, and it costs like there's no other place on earth.
There's you only can see it in Costa Rica with me. That's the only way. So who's the other day somebody came and said that I'm what is it, a grifter, a drifter? I don't know. I can't even remember the word now, and I didn't even know what it meant. And then somebody later told me it was like, oh, it's like a con artist. So I'm like, oh
grifter,
man,
yeah.
I wish I would have known that's what it meant, because I would lean so hard into it. That would be amazing. I would just start talking about how you can only see the laser with me, and unless you pay the special fee, you really can't see the code. The aliens told me, so it's I'm the only gate.
Yeah, kind of like what Christians say about Jesus these days. The only one.
The only one.
The only one to, the only gateway between you and the Creator is Jesus Christ. I'm a Christian, and I'm starting to find it offensive more and more. But anyway, you know what? When you are caught up and have the time, remember that conversation about creating a soul that we had the other day, like generating a soul and how it was kind of building it through time. No, you don't remember. I'm not surprised.
Well, I think no. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm just not placing it.
Okay.
Like maybe I categorize it as a completely different kind of conversation. Remind me what were the details. Also, Nico, how you doing, brother? 1 second before I'll just say hi to Nico. Nico is our people. How you doing, man?
Hey, how's it going, Danny? And Yev, nice to meet you.
Hey, Nico, nice to meet you. I'm following you.
Yev is also Yev and Nico also spent many years in academia, and now he has an AI company.
Sweet.
I don't know why I said it that way. AI company.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, I think it was like in 2020, people were like, "Oh, AI is dead," and it kind of did feel like it was dead until I think like OpenAI really made it cool again. So I think everyone has an AI company now.
I don't have an AI company, or maybe I do, and I just don't know about it. Maybe my
Yeah,
maybe my
maybe the
brother,
laser thing is.
maybe my brother in Chile knows it. Somebody on YouTube keeps insisting that he knows me and he knows I have a brother, and that brother works in Windows in Chile, working on mirrors for German technology. So
But
there's
I
a lot of
wanted to
things.
say something. Like you guys mentioned the church thing or like a cult thing. So Andrew Gallimore did like a debunking video on the Church of Silomethoxin.
Oh, I've heard. Yeah, he has like a big issue with him. I don't even know what
Yeah.
the story is. What
Well,
is the
so
big deal?
so so I wanted to kind of just give you the background because I went down this rabbit hole and I kind of just made a realization. So what happened is I believe it was Alexander Shulgin who is like the god or like one of the OGs in psychedelic chemistry. He essentially said it might be possible in the metabolic pathway of mushrooms that if you give a mushroom five, it can take that in and add its phosphate in the four position, therefore making it like a hybrid molecule between five and the mushroom pizza, the special mushroom pizza
Uh
molecule.
huh.
And so
No one pizza
and
man.
this was all unproven, and the molecule is called silomethoxin, all
Yeah.
super unproven, science fiction. Um, however, this guy, Greg Lake, I think his name is the founder of the church. He's actually a lawyer by training, and he specializes in religious exemptions for various different things. But he essentially made a claim that this science fiction thing that Alexander Shulgin mentioned, and I think maybe Terrence McKenna might have. I don't. I don't know who exactly like gave birth to this idea, but it comes from that era of that research. And so what happened is he made a church around it, and he got this use exemption from it as a sacrament. And there's this entire church that worships this molecule. And for the most part, the DEA hasn't necessarily gone after them. The DEA has just kind of allowed them to exist. But then what happened is all these scientists started like debunking it, right? And like measuring, like, like ordering the sacrament and then measuring it and seeing that none of it is there. And then everyone's kind of like debunking this guy and saying this is like a fake thing. But then what I realized in listening to some of his podcasts, I don't think he believes that he's actually making this novel molecule. I think he's trying to just find a loophole to where everyone can have like access to mushroom pizza and not be afraid of getting arrested by the feds, essentially. And so I don't know. I kind of and Timothy Leary was kind of the first guy who got in trouble for this, right? Because he started a church and then he got in trouble and he claimed, hey, this is like my First Amendment. This is my right for religious, pursuit. And then the Supreme Court ruled after Timothy Leary used it, well, if you can make this claim, then any American can make this claim. And so we're not going to allow this claim to be made unless you're like an actual, like incorporated church. And so I kind of feel like this guy, Greg Lake, is kind of like a Timothy Leary 2.0 in the sense that he's just trying to find a loophole and all these nerds are like kind of calling him out on it. And I think we're just ruining this guy's like kind of he's just trying to create access to it. So
Interesting. Yeah. So I think yeah, I don't know enough about the details. I had a reporter recently reach out to me, and we had a conversation, and he asked me if I like what I, because I think he wrote about them. He writes for all kinds of stuff that relates to psychedelics, and including to is it is it Wired magazine, or which one is more touching on these subjects? I forget. Or what's the other one? There's Wired, and then there's the other big one, the one that do all kinds of interesting subjects.
Popular Mechanics, or did they go down?
No. Vice. Thank you. Vice. Yes.
Oh,
Thank you,
Vice, yeah.
Chase. Yeah. So, and I think he wrote about them. So he asked me because he said he was following like what was going on and the whole conversation with Gallimore, and he said it's interesting that he kind of like he started kind of that was him telling me. He said it was interesting that he kind of started reacting to you in a similar way, and he even mentioned it in his conversation with you. He said like with me, but then he said that it's weird that he gave you a pass. I'm like, so I immediately said, well, I don't think he gave me a pass. I think he just, I don't know enough about the story. I don't know how they reacted to him, but I think the reason he didn't feel the need to continue with any of this, at least the very overt debunking styles, because I immediately reacted in a way that it was very cordial and polite and inviting. I don't know what they did, but and then he said, yeah, they kind of went ballistic. I'm like, well, there's your answer. Like, you know, I don't know exactly what happened, but like if you become super defensive when you're trying to penetrate a new domain that you're not an expert in, and then you're gonna have experts coming after you. I mean, that's the experts by their nature feel like they're the gatekeepers of the whatever that is, and that's natural. I don't think it's a weird thing. I'll be honest, I don't know enough about the details, and they might just be not. When I say they, I mean the like the Gallimores, right? And people that go after them. Maybe they're like overreacting, but I really don't know enough about the detail. But something tells me that at a certain point, if you spark a certain kind of friction on a certain level and you keep leaning into it, well, now you're creating tension and now you're creating like headbutting, right? And then it's going to keep amplifying because that's what happens. So again, I don't know. Did you get that from the story? Like, do you feel like they could have also went about it a little bit differently in terms of?
I don't know. I mean, I get that everyone's going to want to debunk everyone, especially the scientists were, measuring it and looking for any quantities, couldn't find anything. I just, in my opinion, it's kind of like, who cares? He's not doing anything crazy. In fact, they focus on healing veterans. That's a very big part of it. So I don't know. I didn't think it was a big deal. I mean, it is a false claim and it is a novel molecule that they think might be cytotoxic or might, be dangerous because it's not understood. But aside from that, I just feel like it was kind of overblown. But there's a lot of kind of gatekeepers in the space that are. But yeah, I mean,
What is your? Do you believe?
I did feel
this
like
is an
Gallimore
interesting.
gave you a pass though, in the sense where he like kind of. I don't want to say he gave you a pass, but I feel like he is very open to all of this. Like, I think I didn't feel like he was kind of coming after you like he did with Greg Lake. So
I see. So, question for both of you. Actually, this is an interesting discussion, both to you, Nico, and to you, Yev, because you both interacted with academia, right? Do you not feel? So, first, just to clear the waters, we're on the same page that scientists tend to take the whole feeling that they have an authority a little bit too far sometimes. We agree. But don't you feel that the gatekeeping in general is also necessary to some degree? Like otherwise anything would come through the door, right? No?
Yeah, I agree. I by the way, just to before I forget, legal superhero Tony said, I've talked to him. I'm assuming this guy you're talking about, he went to my school until recently in Michigan. They just arrested one of the shamans.
Whoa.
That sucks.
Yeah, that's messed up. Just because it's that's already like that you're creating a turmoil in somebody's life that is way beyond like a small kind of disagreement. You're creating a real plight. That's not cool.
So when you say scientists, that's a broad term that includes so let's just focus on academics, right? So academics, well, no, let's keep to scientists. There's scientists who are skeptics. They're like professional skeptics. Okay, that's their passion. They love going after people who like claim that they love debunking. Okay, it's not my thing. Like, I'm a scientist, but it's not my thing. And so, but we need skeptics. So like my favorite personality typology is called the Enneagram, and one of the types there is a skeptic. And that's not my type, and I don't even like them, but we need them. Like, that's the whole idea, right? And then in academia, you have that additional thing where you're taking care of basically children, or at least children of parents who sent them into your care. And so, like, there's babying going on there and stuff. So there's a lot going on in addition to finding the truth when you talk about academics or even more generally professional scientists. So complicated question and answer from me.
Yeah, I mean, I like in 2020, I left academia and I wrote a paper in machine learning and I submitted it to a journal. And they asked me, and actually it was a journal and a conference, and they both said, "Who are you affiliated? What university are you affiliated with?" And once I said I'm independent, and they rejected my research entirely, right? So just like by default on pedigree, like I wasn't affiliated with the university, they immediately rejected it, even on the claim, and they didn't even like evaluate the merit of what I was trying to propose, which is something that I felt was novel and at the time was novel. And so I kind of feel like there's a lot of kind of like in jujitsu, right, where it's like some gi, like a belt system, right, where it's like, oh, you're a white belt, you're not a black belt or a brown belt. There's just a lot of that going on in academia, and when you think about it, fundamentally, what science is supposed to be, science is supposed to be open to. Science is supposed to just judge an idea on the merit of the idea, right, and be blinded by kind of the bureaucracy or the credentials of it. But I understand the need for, having this litmus test, and you could easily apply to really filter for ideas or people.
But do we need it anymore with AI? So, like, I don't know what your AI company does. I'm curious, but the one I need someone to create, or I need to create it, is the one that just judges content, and it doesn't judge scientific
You mean
content.
fact check, basically?
I mean, like, according to whatever. So, like, either now or with GPT-5, we should be able to have, an AI for a political science journal that judges on facts, on coherence, on like falsifiability, whatever the standards the reviewers of that journal would be claiming to use, it would do it and do it better because it's not biased. I've had academic people review my papers, and most of them don't do as good a job as ChatGPT would now do.
Totally.
So like, what are we talking about? Like, all of that is going to go away, right? Like, AI is going to fix so many of these problems.
Yeah, I agree. So, I mean, I kind of think the whole thing is broken, right? And so there's this movement going on right now because a lot of like brilliant physicists that, went to school, got this amazing education, did a lot of research. They went into industry, and then even them, they can't publish in journals or they can't present at conferences, right? And so there's this concept of the scientific underground that's been going around, where it's like open access journals, right? And mostly
That's why we have the right to bear arms, by the way, in case they don't accept your papers.
Yeah, I mean, and like one thing that's
TikTok about to ban us. Incitement to violence.
If you get into the politics of like, taxpayer money goes into funding science, and then the science gets submitted to a journal and it's behind a paywall, right? So now you need to access. So we don't have open access to science, right? But in general, there's this scientific underground that is a lot more open to questions like, like I listened to the telepathy tapes last night, and like the one thing that they said in the first episode was like, this is not enough evidence for the scientific community to even take it seriously.
But it wasn't. The way she ran it the first time was terrible. So this is exactly what I mean.
Terrible?
It was awful. So
the first test was amazing.
She literally she literally showed it to the mother, who's the translator. And not only that, I didn't even understand what the kid was saying. Only the mother is
I was talking
translating.
about no. So the first one, yeah, the first one was that was bad with the through the WhatsApp app, right? But
No.
there was
When she brought her to California to Glendale,
yeah, that was
the
bad.
mother was shown the material. She's the translator. You can't have that. And she was touching the kid. So
I thought that no, I thought the kid was in another room in the when she
no,
came to
she was
California.
showing the mother, and the mother was looking at the kid, and then like so. So now here's the thing: I believe them, but of course this was not gonna fly as a scientific proof.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? The translator there is like, I don't even understand what the kid is saying. Like, if I want to really play the game of how they could have done it, I mean, easily I can say, well, they have a signal. She speaks a different language. I don't understand what the kid is saying. I don't know.
thought they had a separate translator, which was her friend, which was
The mother was translating, from what I understood.
really okay.
Yeah.
Maybe someone in chat can weigh in, but
Yeah, I
was
know,
just-
but
okay.
like after like I fully accept it at this point, and you're right. In further tests, in the other cases, this is also why what's the name of the professor that she keeps referring to, the one that was studying this for years. Doesn't
I forget her name.
Doesn't matter, but that's why she told her this is not gonna fly. So she
Yeah.
said, "That's nothing. Let me send you to this kid," and then she sent her to that Indian kid in Jersey.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's where I'm at right now. Okay,
Yeah.
Interesting, but just even something like that, right? Like I posted it on my Instagram story today. Like, this is an amazing podcast, and then my science friends are like, "Are you kidding me, dude?" And I'm just like, dude, you guys are so. This is so classic.
Can I just speak to that for a second,
please?
Because I have seething anger that I don't let out normally about it. And so, okay, so I've been a scientist, kind of a standard materialist scientist. I've always been like more open-minded, like not militant about it. But whatever we're kind of criticizing here, that was me. And it was because I was studying things. I was studying maps of the territory, right? But I wasn't like, no, I didn't know the territory. And so I think there's a lot of defensiveness comes to that with that, because you're not even aware that that's the case. But you know what I mean? Like, as a political scientist, I was never actually trained. Like, I never had a professor in political science in undergrad or grad school who actually was in politics. They all were they were investigators, scientific investigators of politics. So, and that's fine, you know, but when like a politician comes to give you a guest lecture, it would be very rude to tell them, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. We know what we're talking about. You don't know politics. We know politics. But that's what they're doing in response. So like, if you, I, whoever, Nico, if you believe in synchronicity, if we're like, synchronicity is real, and they are being condescending, I think that's the emotion I most feel around it, then it's okay to, so what they're doing is gaslighting us. I think that's the word of 2024, and that's technically what is going on. So I think just as a defense, as self-defense, as intellectual jujitsu, like, first of all, it's like, don't let yourself be guilted or shamed because you're saying something weird. You're actually saying the truth that they don't know, that they should be thanking for you for reporting to them. Does that make sense?
So can I just say, so because I'm looking a little bit from the outside, I do understand how the scientific method works, but I am looking from the outside because I've never swam in the culture. So I understand, I have a little bit more of a, like, I have a little bit less reactivity to it because I completely understand like where you're coming from. But looking from the outside, and by the way, SL, thank you so much for the donation. I appreciate you. The short answer is that I aimed for it for years, and that's why we're working on a documentary about it that's going to be describing the full process of how I came to that conclusion. But it was not haphazard. It wasn't by mistake. I was literally aiming to try and understand how we can decipher if the space is real or not. And I might be talking about this. Oh, no, don't. If you watch on YouTube, there's a trailer. talking about, and first, actually, you can go to the first video I ever put out on the subject on the YouTube channel. It's 30 minutes. Scroll through the videos. You will see a video that the thumbnail of it is a person with VR glasses looking up. That's the only one I have that is like that, and that's the first video I ever put out on the subject, in which I'm kind of talking about how I came to it a little bit. But in the movie, we're going to be depicting the full process, which is a pretty long process, and I might dive into it a little bit later today. Appreciate your donation. I really appreciate that. So back to what I was trying to tell both of you, and you tell me what you feel. I feel that there's a much more human component here than that people might want to believe, which is something that Gnome City's citizen something my dyslexia is great with this handle, but he said I guess most people do that all the time, which is the basically being arrogant about a particular subject. So this is one of the things where I understood where Gallimore was coming from to some degree, because I totally see how if you train yourself as an academic, now there's this tendency for most academics, I think, because you kind of want to remove the stank off yourself, right? You immediately kind of virtue signal, but I don't mean like in a bad way. Like it's like I want to make sure everybody knows I'm not one of these a-holes that are just like criticizing everybody. But it's understand, like if you spend considerable amount of time of your life learning how to know how to pay attention to a particular subject, there's so many different things you need to know. There's so much work involved. And it's very easy to fool yourself. And then you basically work so hard to learn how to not fool yourself. And then somebody just comes along and like, it's this and this and this. And they have like a billion ideas and they didn't give any of them consideration. They didn't put in the work. They're lazy. Clearly, they don't want to think about it. They just want to project, vomit ideas. It is annoying. Like, it's annoying. Like, it's like somebody's not putting in the work. Now, there is obviously a way to approach this, and some educators are really good at that, but not everybody are really in control of their emotions like that. So it's not like I don't get it. Like, I get it. Like, it's annoying when just novices come in and they want to tell you what it is versus having some humility to say, hey, did you consider this A, B, or C? Because most people don't say that. Most people just kind of projectile vomit what they think, right? And in terms of like, that's the truth. So is there some sympathy for that in both of your guys' mind?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But you said, see, scientists have great power in our society. I think the analogy of priests in the past, that's great power. They kind of are gatekeepers of knowledge. And with great power comes great responsibility. So the responsibility to be humble, to be emotionally intelligent, not just intellectually intelligent. So that's not recognized, what I'm saying. There is no like, hey, we have a class on emotional intelligence.
Well, scientists used to be like Renaissance people, right? Like they used to be like very well-rounded individuals, like historically.
So right now, I read a paper which did an analysis that so if you're choosing interdisciplinary science track, you're literally taking a measurable cut in your career track, like compensation, etc. So it's the opposite now.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, in general, like I was a part of a diversity committee at a school. I won't mention what school, but when scientists even think about like what diversity is in terms of like in terms of science, they view it as like, race and gender. And I was saying like, hey, what if we also incorporate like educational background into, diversity? Like, can we let this machinist kid who didn't go to college but knows how to machine, can we admit him into the science program? Because he has this very unique, set of skills that he brings into this, institution or department. And I feel like
that was somebody specific.
What was that?
Was that somebody specific, or you?
Yeah, that was someone specific. Like they just rejected someone, and he didn't have like a normal college track. He went to like a trade school, but he was like a master machinist. And I don't know if you guys ever looked into machining, but machining is like not easy. It's like a whole nother science and craft.
Yeah, I watch all seasons of Forged in Fire, and also that car show where there's a machine. Yeah, I like know all vicariously about machining. I know what you're saying. Like, they're totally not. They're discriminating against that kind of intelligence. You know,
Yeah, like take a PhD in mechanical engineering and put him in a machine shop, and I think he'll likely die. He'll kill himself just because of all the spinning metal. Like, it's just not a safe environment for people. But machinists are like, it's just a whole nother trade. But in general, I feel like science is very science with a capital S, right? Like the institution of science is extremely close-minded, and we're seeing this problem now where we're producing so many PhDs and there's not enough faculty positions for these PhDs, right? So you're seeing PhDs go into third or fourth postdocs, right? So they're just becoming career-long academics without the, the normal track, the tenure track that, academia is supposed to offer them. And so it's this really kind of crappy situation where I think the machine is kind of falling apart. And in the other sense, when you look at Nature just published this, like the amount of papers that have been submitted is really high, but also more than ever, the amount of retracted papers has hit an all-time high, right? So when you have so much competition in academia, you incentivize the students to not fake their data necessarily. I don't know how many bad actors there are in terms of just straight up faking their science, but you're incentivizing scientists to be more biased to
or loose.
Maybe publish data, or maybe just be biased in that you're cherry picking data. That's a big mechanism of why papers are retracted. But just the quality of science has gone down a lot just because of how competitive it is. And in order for you to be a professor, you need to publish in either Nature or Science or a big publication. And so the whole thing is falling apart, right? And that's where I'm a really big believer in kind of this Web3 take on science, which is like, okay, what happens when you democratize science, right? And what happens when everyone can be a scientist and you create a mechanism where people can own IP or own parts of a bigger project, right? So in the context of like the laser simulation project, right, Danny has curated a huge community, and a lot of people, I imagine a lot of people want to feel like, a part of ownership of, the IP that's generated, right? And so there's even projects like, something like this where everyone can own like an IP or, or an NFT or whatever it is, right? And these are things that are tokens that can be like used later for some of the things. So there's a lot of these really interesting tools that can be used for science projects, or even just like crowdsourcing. Like right now, we pay taxes, and then the government gives the money to the NSF, the National Science Foundation. And National Science Foundation is a bunch of academics who decide which professors get funding to do their research, right? But it would be better if we could, if the public can decide, hey, we want to fund either, UFO phenomenology or telepathy research or psychedelic phenomenon research or whatever it could be. These are things that this is a way of like democratizing how we choose to fund science.
And it makes the public care and therefore interested in understanding some bare bones of the thing, so they can weigh in on it and maybe even participate in it. Because there's a yeah, and I still think that there's a place for actual scientists in that field, in that world, because eventually you're going to get to a place where the level of expertise will be required to take it to like the next level of like, well, listen, you can't be a rocket scientist without really understanding quite a few things, right? There's so much thing that you do need to know. And even if you want to say you'll be able to be aided by AI for, like they say that soon, well, already a lot of the diagnoses are being made better by AI than by a doctor, right? But still, you want that human component, I think, for quite a while, of the innovative part of it, to truly create like new things and new ways of thinking. And I mean, my jury is kind of like in on the side of it is one and the same, but that's already a much deeper point. But I do think that ultimately there's a it's a much better situation where everybody are kind of weighing in on it to some degree, because everybody has some wisdom to contribute, and even the people who are wrong about the claims, they create contrast. So they create contrast in the space of I guess the public field of convictions, and we can see what works and what doesn't. I guess the next challenge would be to actually make people care about what works, because um, David is saying that incentives to quality in paper submission is low. So the question is, why is it low? Right? Why is it low? Because if it would be submitted for something that requires a technological function, it wouldn't be low, because nobody would accept that, because it's like, well, it doesn't work. So the question is, why is it low?
Yeah. I mean, science is hard, right? Like, it takes a long time to publish a high quality paper, and oftentimes you're incentivized by the number of papers as well, right? 5 years is not a lot of time. The first couple years, you're just getting your bearings under you, and then by the time you figure things out, you have like 1 year of solid research under your belt. And so it's super hard. But yeah, in general, I think that everyone is a scientist to some extent. Everyone's forming, like yesterday, someone said every person should have their own world model, right? And I think that's exactly true, right? Everyone that is living.
So everyone has already their own world model,
right,
their own physical world model, right? Instantiated in their brain. And then, so when we talk about scientists, so I was a social scientist, right? And there's much more, so like kind of, it's a much more philosophical, or at least phenomenological science. And so it's like a lot about your observations and your interpretation and stuff. And like that, maybe with web 3.0 can be helpful with too, is to get that out of people, like, because no one's trained in phenomenology. We weren't trained in phenomenology, but it's precisely like, how do you credibly communicate the fact that you have real valuable knowledge, even though you're not maybe a PhD, or you're not, like, I think most of my ex-academic friends just think I'm insane, or just like think badly of me. No, it's funny, but it's true. And like, I'm not. That's the thing, And so I'm just biding my time till I make it in comedy, to be like, guys.
I mean,
but
what do you think is the main reason they think you're insane? Because you entertain a lot of these like
because they're closed-minded. They're
meaning.
literally what Nico.
No. So I'm asking specifically: is it because you will accept maps of meaning, things like this? What is the main operative there?
Okay, so it's a couple of things. One is intellectual closed-mindedness. So yeah, if I'm talking about quantum effects of consciousness, when to them there's no basis for it, it means I'm incoherent. And so anyone who has gotten into a actual philosophical discussion, like, quantum social science, and they'd be like, yeah, good theory, but it's not falsifiable. And I'd be like, are you sure? Let's explore some possibilities. And I always win that argument. So they just haven't thought about it, but they act like they know. And the problem with academia or with science is, again, their status in society is that their responsibility is to know. So when you don't know, but you think you know, or you act like you know, that's a violation of responsibility. And I think there is subconsciously an understanding of that. I think there is therefore an emotion about that consciously comes across as derision, condescension. Subconsciously, it's fear. It's like a basic fear of the unknown and a complete lack of training in how to deal with emotions. And my scientists in part are selected because of high intellectual trait openness, which is often negatively correlated with high emotional intelligence. So there's like compound problems. And science is not the only field. Like AI really is gonna revolutionize everything, and it's gonna be like very turbulent, but in the end it's gonna be good, because in every field, like 80% of the people are just not contributing, are worthless professionally, but every one of us is a lovely human being. So I think we're gonna be moving to some. But yeah, like, Nico, I feel like I need to talk to you. Like, I need to solve my life, right? Like, I feel like I have knowledge. I feel like I quit academia, I quit my professional thing, and I went and I got knowledge. Now it's mostly phenomenological, right? But it's the kind of thing, like, I couldn't have these conversations with you guys before I quit and I got this knowledge. But how do I, what do I do with it? Where do I, quote unquote, publish it, right? Because that's what it's supposed to be about. Like, science is supposed to be about knowledge. And by the way, can I just share my favorite Schrodinger quote with you on this? So here's what Schrodinger said. So knowledge is kind of
Get out of here, cat.
Yeah, I do not appreciate the cat in the example as a cat lover. But no, he said scientists owe only two things to each other and themselves, or something like that: truth and sincerity. Basically, like, a scientist must obligate themselves and other scientists to only two things: truth and sincerity. It's not politeness, it's not collegiality, it's not keeping your job, it's not making sure that like, riffraff with woo-woo ideas don't get into our beautiful buildings. It's truth and sincerity. So the capacity to be sincere, for example, is very low in scientific academic community. And so what they pursue as truth, what they view as truth, is subpar. That's my judgment. I
don't think it's a coincidence.
That's my judgment of the past.
No, but I think you're right. I don't
optimistic.
think it's a coincidence. I think it's because a lot of intellectuals become intellectuals because of a form of trauma, because they go all into the head, right?
Yeah.
And then they leave the body, and so they're not connected to their emotions. So their safe space is in knowledge. It's what I know. That's my safe space. And when you attack what they know, it's not just you attack what they know. They attack where they're safe. I feel like that's not a coincidence.
Well, so yes. Okay, so I'm gonna. Yesterday, Danny gave a really amazing description of enlightenment, right? Which is, you can never achieve it, and if you have the goal of achieving it, you by default will not achieve it, because you're attached to this construct of something, and that disqualifies you from achieving it, right? But I think the same thing about science, because, like, you're chasing the truth in science, right? And there is no such thing as truth. I feel like truth is.
Ooh, we're gonna have some fun conversations around that. But go ahead.
Well, yeah. So I mean, look, like, I was listening to the Theories of Everything podcast. Danny's always recommending it. Today I listened to this guy who's actually he's quote unquote the true brains behind the Wolfram Project, right? His name is Jonathan
Gerard. Yeah.
Gerard, yeah. And so he said, when we essentially, like, way back in the day when we developed books and language, everyone was saying, oh, the universe, everything is one book, is one collection of concepts. And then today, he says, today we're in this stage where we invented computers, and now we think, oh, everything is a computation. The universe is a computation, right? And so what he was saying is that it's just, right now we're in the computer cycle of our understanding of the universe, but the next big thing, the next big entity that is developed, that's going to be, the universe, right? Whether that's AI, whether that's intelligence, or some other futuristic concept or entity of intelligence, or whatever it could be, right? But going from books to computers, I don't know what's next. I think it might be like intelligent networks.
So these are maps, right? Maps
Right.
of not the territory, but
Exactly.
the territory is like, to me, is I've spoken to God, like, and God I will define as like a transcalar consciousness, blah blah blah, that somehow in whatever, we can talk about that.
You nailed it. You nailed it on the head. That's, by the way, and Gerard said the same thing in the conversation, that scientists very often confuse the map with the territory. Continuously.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you said is very beautiful, but I just think, like, like what you said yesterday, Danny, where, like, sometimes the universe, you get a glimpse of insight into something, and it might be the truth, it may not be the truth, but you just have to say thank you and keep moving on, right? And, like, sometimes you're proven wrong, or whatever it is, but no one can know, I feel like, everything. I think we could appreciate it for a moment.
I feel like, sorry to interrupt, but before it goes, I feel like you just conflated, like, it's like you had an experience that could be the truth, it could not be the truth. No, your interpretation of that experience could be true, exactly, or could not be true. But the experience itself was reality. Now you could, with different fidelity, preserve it into the future by investing into, like, memory or whatever. That's the difference. But so map territory, Carl Jung made the distinction between judging and perceiving. And to be a whole, you need to have both. And it involves some weird thing, because, like, the perceiving part of the mind, and stereotypically it's like the left brain. No, the right brain. So it's more like intuitive, holistic, blah, blah, blah. And then the other side is judging. But, like, so I think scientists as a whole, and it depends on the field, that's the thing. Some of them are more like judging. Some of them are more perceiving, but it's on the whole, it's not like unified. It's fragmented and prejudiced. Not like biases in AI are a good thing, but in academia.
So sorry, go ahead, Nico, and then I would love to add something.
No, I think you're gonna own me. You guys are way. I think you're 100% right about me conflating that. And the way that I view it, right, is I have some friends that are, like, on the pursuit of enlightenment, right, whatever that means to them. But one of my friends, he says, life is suffering, right? And we've heard this from, like, the Buddhist kind of, like, side. And then I have another friend who's very big onto, like, the Aya plant medicine. She's like, no, life is love and light and this and that. And then they were asking me, like, what do you think, like, this whole purpose of life is, right? And I just said, I don't know. I think it's both. I mean, you guys are talking about Schrodinger's cat here. Like, I think it's a superposition of both things. It's suffering and it's both love and light. It's all of it in a superposition. I don't know which it is, but I don't think there is one absolute, like, truth per se, right?
So so that's the thing. It's not. I wasn't trying to definitely not to own you, and definitely not to even disagree with you. I just wanted to add to something to both of them, to both of you guys. Also to mention that Save the Fries said, "What's your prerogative?" And that's a great word. I should get a prerogative. It's nice to say my prerogative is fill in the blank. I just want to add to that. Yesterday I wasn't really saying that there is no way to achieve enlightenment. In fact, the statement is you can achieve enlightenment right now. It's just that in order to truly take the steps to prepare your state to be able to achieve enlightenment right now, it takes some work. And that seems to be overlooked in a lot of the culture online now, where people say, it was my response to somebody who was saying, oh, actually to the guy that you shared, which I love the advice, by the way. I shared it with everybody and I keep sharing it. The guy that said, imagine yourself in another place, and then, and then imagine yourself from that place, say thank you for bringing me here safely. I think it's a really cool practice. But there is this tendency. He said it, and I see it often said. Just close your eyes and go into deep meditative state. Just like, what are you talking about?
No, dude,
It takes
this is
takes
what I was saying
decades of
earlier.
work, you know. So what is it seems that when you say that, when somebody says that, it shows to me that they don't understand what that means to be in a deep meditative state, and then it's clear to me they don't even understand what meditation is. So that was the whole rant yesterday, right? But
That was the rant about the soul that I meant, by the way. And I
oh,
still am gonna want you to repeat
oh
that
yeah,
again.
please,
But
please,
yeah.
we can go back. But I do want to add something to what both of you said, because I actually just re-listened to that conversation with Gerard. That's how the host pronounces it. I was convinced you say Gerard, but I'm not sure at this point. He definitely is probably one of the smartest people today, right? He's very, very smart. And so from what I understood, he wasn't fully standing on that point, which is a known kind of meme, that every paradigm makes us see everything in terms of that paradigm. So when we were building engines, everything looked like engines, or what he mentioned is clockwork. He said that back in the day when when we were building watches, that everybody thought of everything in terms of clocks, and now that everything is computation, we think of everything in terms of computation. That's the meme. But I actually, from what I remember, he was saying something a little bit more nuanced than that. He's saying and maybe I need to go re-listen to it again, but maybe it was wishful thinking, because if he was saying that, then I will disagree with him, because it is, with computation, it is a little different, because it's already, how a metaphor is basically just a few steps removed analogy. So it's like, the closer the thing is to what the real thing is, then it stops becoming a metaphor and it becomes more of just a map of the thing, right? So I guess what I am saying, and I think he was to some degree saying the same thing, which is that it's not that they were thinking about everything. No actual scientist really thought of the universe as a clock. That's a kind of repeatable meme, but that's never was the case. It's that they knew this was a useful heuristic to describe it from that thing, and then it kind of gives you the insight into your own uh, deficit of being able to describe it with more granularity, because you know the limitations of your map. But I think that, and again, this is where I have to add this caveat, because now you made me question whether I heard him say that or maybe I just projected it. But I would say it, that with computation, it is a little different, because it's already so close to what the real thing is that it's no longer a metaphor. It's true that it will probably evolve more and might include also like what computation really is, which is like, how do you inject the spiritual component, the experiential component, and how it actually relates. And we're going to have words and concepts that are going to be way more advanced, describing very, very specific things that later we might be equating the world to. But I think with computation, it's already a different league. Like it's not the same as saying, well, now everything is computers, so we think of everything as computation. I think it's not quite true. And to the truth point, there's a big difference between saying we will never know the ultimate truth and saying there is no ultimate truth. Those are two very different statements. I don't see how the latter statement, unless you're completely on the postmodernist side, but even there, I think it's just not correct. I don't think how that's the one thing that is simply not for me, right? It's going to sound so condescending, and I understand it, but like I stand on this point very strongly, which is that's not debatable. Like that's not because what you mean by the word the truth is just the state of affairs, however you find it. So the definition of what the truth is it's what the world is, whatever it's doing. Even if you want to say that your experience of it will be flipping 10 quadrillion times a second, and it depends on all these quantum factors that might change it into any particular direction in the branching of the wave function. Whatever you want to say about the experience of one observer in it, it doesn't negate the truth of the matter of whatever in fact is going on. Yeah.
But wait.
Yeah.
There's this set of fundamental dualities. So here, for example, let's say location and momentum. And truth, the way you were kind of more inclusive in what you meant by truth, but like what scientists often mean by truth is like, where are we? What has happened and what is happening now? And that's the only like legitimate thing. But the momentum, quote unquote, part where, so in actual political science, the distinction is called normative versus positive. And positive is like, this is how things are, like realist political science. Like, why would you antagonize Putin? He has power and he's going to use it. Like, it's stupid, right? And the other side is normative, which ironically is the positive ones, because they're like, like positive psychology, like we can improve our psychology, or like, maybe there is God, maybe your whole life there was no God, and then you realized you could just pray for understanding God and maybe them like talking to me and it will happen. So that's more of like potential truth, right? So there's like truth and potential truth.
It's just that acknowledging that there is the ultimate state of affairs does not negate your ability to then say that you have your point of view of it. I think that's the complete statement, right? You might not ever know the ultimate truth because in order to do that, you have to be outside of reality. But and that's fine to say. And then we all have our perspectives of it, and we compare the perspectives. In the case of postmodernists, the mistake that postmodernists make, and I don't know, Nico, if you would consider yourself one, but the mistake that I see there being made is a very clear one, which is that the statement "there is no ultimate truth" is a truth claim. That's a truth claim you're making about what you think the ontology is, but you don't have a way to know that. So
Can I play the devil's advocate?
Always. And
Okay.
And by the way, Nico, I would love if you respond after this as well. Yeah, go ahead, brother.
So I'm assuming you're speaking from like a Jordan Peterson perspective.
No. I don't.
No,
I truly
okay.
don't. Yeah, I'm simply
Okay.
speaking from what makes sense to me. Like, so right now, how can you possibly negate the statement? Right now, the world is a certain way. That's the truth. If you want to go, if you're going to put capital T before the
What is
truth,
right now?
including all the temporal and physical dimensions, like everything that exists as the container of existence itself, not just the universe, everything, all the gods, all the everything, whatever happened, this instance of whatever existence was, even with all its variations in these instances, and even if there's multiple temporal dimensions, all of it is what is happening now. And then in the next instance, however you want to define now or time or all of that, it will be something else. And even if it is potentially infinite things all at once, that is still the state of affairs in that instance, however you want to define that instance. So it doesn't matter how many Rubik cubes move you want to make away from that, you're never going to get away from the fact that there is a state to the Rubik's cube. It's just what it is. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying we will ever know that truth, or what I don't understand is the difficulty people have admitting that. It's just what's going on.
Even if you'll it's never the know. Same difficulty as we're taught. It's like an emotional, spiritual, psychological difficulty.
Oh, interesting. Wait, say more on that. What do you mean by that? I never considered that.
Well, what is truth, right? Like, I'm finally
the state of affairs of how it occurs. Is it not clear when I'm saying it?
It is, but I would say that is one valid and real definition of truth, but there are other facets of truth that are not that.
Give me one example.
So for example, why did Schrodinger said truth and sincerity? Like, what is sincerity? It's some kind of aspect of truth, or like authenticity, like all these words
expressing the truthfulness of your conviction in that instance and not trying to dress it up as anything else, right?
Yeah, but whatever it is what I mean, that there are other aspects of truth without which one you defined won't even matter.
So first, I want to say that it fascinates me what you're saying right now, because I never considered this angle. But I guess, at least in the last part you just said, I'm having a hard time seeing the difference. So, like, if you say what I'm hearing him saying is that you want to make sure that the expression that you're with which you're saying the thing you believe is true is sincere, in the sense that it maps what you really believe in the moment, including as many of your like expressions of your own blind spots. Like express the truest state of your conviction to exactly what it is, nothing more, nothing less. And the degree to which you can do that is the degree to which you're sincere. That would be something that makes
Okay.
sense. Yeah.
Okay. So example of sincerity. And by the way, all credit goes to the amount of God's grass that I have just imbibed. TikTok, it's all legal. Don't worry. Like the sincerity is, so I a little bit lost the intellectual thread of where you're going, but so I'm going to switch to the emotional thread and it's going to connect. So like you versus postmodernists. And I'm also not a fan of postmodernists. I think there are like literally a couple of evolutionary cultural levels behind the cutting edge.
Yes.
And no one admits that they're postmodernists anymore because people like Jordan Peterson, whom I like, but he's also a level below the cutting edge.
Okay.
But he's great. I love him. But he has made postmodernism unpopular, and that's fine. But like for you, what is what you're saying? This definition of truth. What purpose is it serving?
I will tell you where I'm coming from, but hold on. I don't want to drown Nico's voice because he's like super polite.
Sorry, Nico. Yes.
Go ahead, Nico. What did you want to say before? Because I saw you were unmuting.
No, I don't know. I guess what I should have said is you're right. It's a truth statement to say there is no truth. And what I should have said is I don't think there is a truth.
No, but even there, do you imagine this? Like when I'm saying to you, the way I'm defining the truth, I'm not talking about partial truths. I'm talking about the truth about existence. It's something right now. Like it has to be something, right? And even if you want to say it can be many things at once, okay, that's part of that something. That is the state of it. Now, it's different to say that than saying we all, and in addition to that, of course, we all have our own perception of it. So we're all running some kind of a program that interprets whatever that something is. So we agree there. So is that what you mean by like we can never know if each other's truths are exactly the same?
So I mean, I guess when I was like about when I was like 20 years old, I was really bought into this idea that the Big Bang, the universe started with the Big Bang, right? And it's been inflating and it's been growing ever since. And there's this mechanism in this universe called entropy. And entropy's job is to convert all of this energy from a state of mass into a state of heat, right? And a lot of the leading physicists at the time, Oppenheimer, Schrodinger, they died believing that, in kind of the yin yang concept, right? That there's a beginning and there's an end, and there's this heat death to the universe, and it will keep going on until entropy has consumed every living or every entity of mass and it's converted to heat. I believed that, and I believed it because it made sense from a bottom-up approach. When you essentially extrapolate everything that we know from physics and thermodynamics, it made a lot of sense to me. However, this was about this is like 15 years ago, right? And I think this was very popular. And what recently has become popular is questioning the Big Bang in the first place, right? There's a lot of papers being published of well, what happens if there is no Big Bang? What if there is a Big Bang, but the Big Bang is actually, there's another symmetric component of the Big Bang. So there's this brother universe or sister universe that explodes with this one. And there's a symmetry that exists there, right? But even with the Everettian approach, where there are an infinite number of multiverses and etc., I don't know. I mean, those things have now made me think, okay, well, maybe there is maybe the Big Bang is wrong, right? And if the Big Bang is wrong, then when I think about the question of how did we get here, or what is all of this, or I don't know how to even begin to understand that, right? And so I've asked myself, does it matter, right? If the universe began 13 billion years ago versus always existed? Does it change anything for me? But
For you,
for
maybe
me,
no, but for people who are driven to understand what we call the truth, it does matter.
it does matter. Yeah, I mean, I would like to know that. I would like to know how the universe works. And like sometimes when I eat mushroom pizza, right? Like I sit under a tree and like I for a moment let go of all of that and just experience everything. And I feel like those moments where I feel like I get like a 1 microsecond glimpse into like, oh yes,
And that's what I'm talking about. And that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
that
like
we
this
do
is
have
it.
access
But it
to this.
escapes. It's so slippery. It slips away, right? And
Okay, so set the intention to next time it happens, and then choose whatever. What's coming to me is, expand, or something like that. Like say more or something like that. Like set an intention for when that thing happens to glimpse more into it.
Well, the way that I've been, the reason why yesterday Danny said something that resonated with me, right? Because it's like, you can't hold on to it, right? Like it's kind of what you were saying, like you can't hold on to enlightenment, right? Like
that's why intention. That's why. So intention, you don't hang on to. You make it and you let go.
Exactly.
So right now you set the intention,
exactly.
right, and then it will hopefully happen automatically or something beneficent.
It's exactly.
I mean, the best intention is beneficence, like, and you kind of and can I just for a second, because this is exactly illustrating.
No, it's perfect. It's what all I wanted to say was that's exactly what the Buddha did when before he became enlightened. He set the intention to sit under the tree and not to move until he gets enlightened. That was an intention. That's it. Continue.
Yeah. So those are hard for me because they're not like removed in time. So like an intention for an event that will happen to me in the future when I eat mushroom pizza, I can do that and let go. But like to set an intention, and I've done, and this is the thing. I think because this is so hard for me to like set an intention, follow through, willful. Norm Macdonald used to say, through sheer tyranny of will. Like when I apply sheer tyranny of will, synchronicities happen. I think because it's like I bring that function into the fold for me.
But say that last part again. What function to the fold?
So like will. So in the Eightfold Path, it would be effort. So intention is one thing. That's after view, right? So there's view, intention, and then speech, action, vocation, and then effort. So effort is a very hard thing for me. So like my MBTI personality type reflects that, let's say. And so, but I find that if I make that effort, I am rewarded with like extra faith or extra, like, I don't know, gold stars or money or something. Like the universe pays somehow, right? But the normative, so like that distinction, normative versus positive. Nico, when you were speaking, you were instinctively in that positivistic state. Let me know if those words don't mean if you were in a science that the labels were different. But basically, it's like okay, can I just why is Danny's Danny, your scientific enterprise right now is a success, I believe. Why? In part. So we don't know where it's going. We don't know where it's headed, but it's currently, from my perspective, on a good trajectory. In part, why? Because not only are you experimenting with this laser thing and the facts of the laser, but there's a purpose behind it, which not hidden agenda or anything, but the purpose or the theory, it's as evidence for the simulation theory. So it's not just like, oh, let's take the molecule and look at lasers. It's like there's purpose to it. And so it's like, do you believe that in the Big Bang or not? Well, if you're not a scientist, like, is that the best thing you should be thinking about? And it could be no, it could be yes. But if yes, why? So like I'm I can call myself a religious person, but that just means I've thought a lot about the ontology of the simulation theory. And if you think about the ontology of the simulation theory, that is like the story behind the simulation theory, the narratology. It's like, like, I don't know, pray. Like, if you're inclined toward it, or like experiment with manifestation, but like be more like of an agent. Rather, like scientists aren't agents a lot. There's like a science engineering divide, and it's because of agency. And when I was a scientist, I didn't know that I lacked agency. And then when I discovered like altered states, I was like, whoa, I have agency, but I now also have ADHD. And so I haven't.
You confused agency.
No, it's just more agencies, like you. But it is so part of why I'm sympathetic to the postmodernist agenda is that they recognize that, there are all these different selves out there. And like to your previous example,
yeah, but that's the stretch there, and I'm gonna let you keep talking. I just want to emphasize this one point. I don't think the reason that I have an issue with postmodernists is also about the attitude, the way they go about it. And by the way, this has nothing to do with Jordan Peterson. This was always the thing that I was rah-rahing around because I thought it was a very toxic philosophy. It's what David Deutsch calls a bad philosophy. The definition of a bad philosophy is not one that is wrong, but one that shuts down all the other ones. It limits progress or attempts to limit progress in all the other ones. That is not possible. These negatives that you can't possibly make, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So there is a distinction there, I think, though. I think to the degree that it did that, and it did that dominantly, was because it was a dominant ideology in a culture, not. So it's kind of like
it came from white guilt. It came from white guilt, and the like basically everything that you see reiterated.
It didn't, though. That's my point, though, is that there are good postmodernists. So this is like, I know we've all agreed that there are no good, fascists or Nazis.
That are still postmodernists?
There's probably like a good, I haven't read them, but I assume based on my ideology that there are some good postmodernists, and they were in the beginning of postmodernism, because postmodernism, postmodernism emerged in reaction to extreme,
totalitarians. Yes.
So there were good postmodernists. Then when we criticize scientism, it's the same thing. Like we all love science.
Sure.
But like, why do people not like scientists today? It's because scientism is the dominant ideology.
But it isn't. It's like it's a. I think that's a caricature
in science.
No, I don't think so. I think it's a caricature version of what's going on. There's a lot of people, Sean Carroll, that are very humble, but they very open-minded, but they just stick to what they know that works, and that makes sense. No,
this is really interesting because either we live in different worlds because I'm more pessimistic, or
about the general state of the scientific world at the moment.
Well, let's be more specific,
sure.
Right? So, what is the distribution of open-mindedness by our? So, I think you and I, Nico, also, it sounds like, kind of share a standard of open-mindedness.
Yes, absolutely.
So, relative to that standard, what would you say is the distribution of open-mindedness in the scientific communities? You could go by field.
If you are in the physics field, you don't have as much leeway because there are very tight parameters around the math. Now, you can still interpret math pretty creatively if you're good at it, and that's why you bring the heavy guns in mathematics. But when you come to physics, even if you have the mathematical chops, you're very limited by what the world is telling you. And I think Nico here would agree with me, or maybe not, but I think he would. With the famous quote by Feynman is a very strong one, which is, if it disagrees with experiment, it's wrong. End of story. And the point there is that you want to check with the world. So you have an assumption about something that's going on, and you work very hard on theoretical physics. Eventually the rubber would have to meet the road somewhere. And if we are entering the territory of saying, well, we don't even know if there's a road or there's a rubber, okay, that's actually a much more difficult ground to traverse, where the open-mindedness becomes a necessity, so you don't get smeared on the invisible, on if you get too attached to the idea that there are these very rigid definitions of what things are in the context of a real science that takes this kind of stuff into account, which is, i.e., the fact that there is no real road, there is no real rubber, you will either A, get nothing in return, like no functionality of any kind, because everything is everything, and that's the end of that story. Go sit in a cave. Or you will get a situation where you literally you you are being ripped apart by the invisible concepts that you're coming up with, because they're not that. Then you start actually confusing the map with the territory. I'm claiming there is a territory. I'm not buying into the idea that there is no territory. I think that even Donald Hoffman.
Wait, okay, but what?
Yeah.
Okay,
No, so just to tie this point down.
What's your simulation story?
Well, hold on. Before I just
Yeah.
want to tie this down really quickly. The reason it's relevant is because there either is or isn't, right? To the extent that we will experience in our whatever environment we occupy. I don't want to get bogged down by terms. I'm just kind of I'm relying on your charity to try and understand what I'm really trying to say, right? So what I'm really trying to say is that there's definitely a component of realness to things. Like, you can't walk through a wall right now. You can't jump from a 20th floor. And if the conversation gonna start taking the flavor of like, well, actually, then I don't know what you're talking about. Because no, you can't walk through the wall, and there's no actually there. So there's some very hypothetical statistical analyses of possible quantum states in which, yes, all your atoms will arrange themselves. That's not a real thing. Not a real thing that will be actionable in any time that will be relevant. And if it ever happens, such a glitch in the infinite time of the universe, it will never repeat again, or repeat again in like I don't know, Google years. So it's not what we're talking about. Like you said, we're talking about on a level where we can do something with it. So when you're talking about open-mindedness in scientists, if you're talking about people like Sean Carroll, yes, for someone in this position, he's very open-minded. He doesn't need to answer to anyone. He's a very famous person. He deals with things that are only mainstream because he's interested in, he believes in the institution and the power of the institution, which some people would disagree with. I won't. I actually agree with that. And under that condition, he really can pick the games he's playing, and yet he still listens to a lot of people with all kinds of new ideas, but he's not obligated to just accept them. So he will open his mind to let things in, and they will assess them according to the rigor that they deserve, which is the respect that they deserve, right? And again, the famous quote by Terence McKenna, which is, open your mind, just not so much that your brain will fall out. That's really where I stand with all of this.
So people, let's call quote unquote spiritual. So I put myself there very broadly. I would put you there. So I don't know. I'm not labeling.
No, I'm definitely. I believe that there's more than just the physical. 100%. Yes.
So, something else comes to mind. Is it just that, like, I agree that there is a real thing, like you're describing, and it's not a but after it; it's a and. Like, it's a subtle distinction, but like people literally have it tattooed on their arms. Yes, and, because it's like have you heard about this?
Yeah,
before?
It's what is it?
Improv.
Improv. Yeah.
It's a motto from improv. Yeah,
which is very hard, by the way.
It's very hard for me. I've tried it. I sucked at it, and I'm not humble about like thinking I'm a good stand-up comedian, that I could not do improv. It's a different thing. But the yes and is a big principle, and it, like, when I'm talking about multidimensional truth, like something in your current definition, like, I don't want to do this work for you. So like maybe so like something in you, according to this theory, something in your current definition is not allowing you to say and also some other thing that
What is that other thing?
Yeah, I don't know.
Wait, but what in my theory, in the way that I'm expressing it right now, like my predisposition, or you're talking about just my theory about the simulation?
Your theory about truth, like you have a definition of truth, right?
I don't think
And
so. Here's how I see it, and I will fully admit that it might just on the surface of it sound like hubris, but to me it's almost like that 2 + 2 = 4. Like it's not up for
okay,
debate.
let's go. Let's do
It's
this.
it's not me defining it. It's just it's what it means in the context of itself. That's it. That's the way I see it. So like you can't define truth in any other way, is what I'm saying. And if you're not talking about truth, you're talking about something else.
Okay, but I could define 2 + 2 as 5.
No, because you would have to change the entirety of mathematics to do so.
And well, I wouldn't have to. I would see. This is exactly it. I would add my mathematics, so I could invent my mathematics. So this is the same.
This is a really good example because it points to the fallibility of this idea. Because because what mathematics is the description of relationships. So if you create, go ahead.
Sorry, no, I think I see where you. I just want to clarify.
Sure.
I can't believe we haven't mentioned Gödel yet, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So
yeah.
At this point, Gödel is like where I would bring him is I would say this is unavoidable. So we have to. This expansion is unavoidable. It's like the emergence, evolution, including of mathematical systems. But I just want to give you an example, especially because it's a Russian guy with
the incompleteness theorem you're talking about.
Huh? Gödel's incompleteness theorem. Yeah. So let me give you an example here.
Okay.
Do parallel lines cross? That's the same as asking is 2 + 2 = 4, right?
They do on a sphere.
Exactly.
Okay.
But the one way to put it is that they do in a Lobachevsky geometry. So he invented spherical geometry. Before him, Euclidean geometry didn't have that, a sphere, right? So it was not geometry on the sphere. It was geometry on planes exclusively. So if you like showed up to a particularly mathematically like rigorous country or city state and you were like parallel lines cross, they would burn you, bro. Like
if you would say what?
If you said like parallel lines cross, wait, I'm a sphere. No, wait, don't burn me. I meant that they would burn you before you could finish a sentence, right? Because people get attached to that.
That's very effective, I have to say. If they can do that before you finish a sentence, that's very effective.
No, I'm kidding. I don't know, but I mean, they killed Socrates for the same thing, right?
Okay.
So so this is the way, by the way, transcendence works in mathematics and physics. Very weird. Like you move from 2D to 3D to 4D. It's just.
But all of this. Well, hold on. Yeah. I am having a hard time understanding where is the thing that negates what I said, because all of the stuff you mentioned, it has to do with somebody's misunderstanding of definitions. So that's it. Like the truth capital T will not be going under these categories.
What about the observer?
It would be included in whatever reality is.
So, were you saying specifically that? Okay, I have an example in my mind. So there's you and me, let's say, and there is a physical phenomenon happening in my brain.
You mean that? Wait, what do you mean? Oh, you mean like something that is like physically happening in your brain?
Physically localized to just like my brain.
Okay.
And maybe there's even some shielding, including neutrino shielding, and like it's just localized for all intents and purposes to my brain.
Okay.
Only out of us conscious observers that we're aware of, only I have access to that reality.
One mind can refer to the abstraction of the fact that whatever the state of affairs and of existence is, it is what it is, including including what happened in your brain.
Can you rephrase that?
Yes. One mind, even without me ever knowing what is going on inside your mind, I'm just making the broadest stroke statement I can possibly make, which cannot possibly be not true, which is that there's something is happening in some way. That's it. Including everything happens in my brain, happens in your brain. If your brain doesn't exist in my, would you agree that that statement, as it was phrased just now, must be true no matter what?
Other comments, because this reminds me of a meme where people are like, I'm gonna post something inoffensive, and they
that was amazing. Somebody on X posted this. I will prove that people would argue about anything, and then he put a picture of a stick and he says, "Here is a stick," and then immediately people are like, "This is a twig, bro."
Exactly. But isn't that Gödel? Like, to me, that
no, Gödel is a perfect example of why this doesn't hold. Because Gödel, all he proved with the which was insane. I mean, if you really understand how he went about it, how it's just some people's minds in history. It's just like, holy crap, like, wow, like what the, like, we are real chimps in comparison to people like that. It's just crazy. But essentially what he proved is that mathematics as a tool can produce statements that we know that are true, that we can prove cannot be proven or arrived at through mathematical tools. That's what he proved. So, and which would be equivalent to the P not P, right? Which would be equivalent to the irreducibility of computation, which there are certain things in computation that you have, the equivalent in computation would be, there are certain processes that you have to run to know what happens. You simply cannot circumvent it in any shape or form, and it is a fundamental law in reality. You cannot. There's some that you can, which is what the little what Gerard was saying, the pockets of reducibility that we call science, because we literally predict things about a process that didn't happen yet. But there are processes, according to Wolfram's models, that follow the irreducibility of computation, which would be the equivalent of the incompleteness theorem, because they are processes in computation that cannot be circumvented. If you want to know what happens, you have to run the full computation. You have to run all the steps. You just don't know because the computation itself does not know what will happen. So you're tethered to the computation. Why is this relevant? Because all I am saying, which is the thing that I don't quite understand, why it's so hard to admit that, because it's not a preemptive, like, I'm not raising for a hit. Like, I'm not preparing something here, and the second you admit it, I go, oh, well, in that case, then I want to catch you on something. I'm not doing that. I'm just saying, here's a statement, stand alone. I'm not bringing another statement after that one. There's nothing coming. No armies marching in the distance. I'm simply giving you a tiny pamphlet that says things are how they are. Would you agree with me that that is true no matter what?
I don't think so.
It's amazing. So things are not how they are.
No, wait. No,
Simon wants to chime in. Absolutely, man. Simon, you're gonna have to come in on TikTok, because I can't bring you on YouTube. Go ahead.
That's so funny.
No, keep going. This is fascinating. Because I know you're not doing this to be difficult. This is why I'm laughing.
No,
I know, because I know this is real, and that's why I'm laughing so hard, because this is amazing. This is this is great.
Oh my god, no. Yeah, I don't. It's obviously like political to me somehow, you know.
Well, see, that's the problem.
Yeah, like you're being
reality is not
right
political. That would be. Nico, do you have any thoughts on this? By the way, because it sounds like you would agree more with Yev on this.
Well, I don't know about these postmodernist frameworks or whatever.
Oh,
I mean,
forget about that. Just literally the words we said. Forget about definitions.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think the world is computational, or everything is computational. It makes a lot of sense. We can derive a lot of reality or a lot of what I experience. So I'm very materialist in the sense that, and I think what Feynman, that quote that you quoted from Feynman, which is if it doesn't agree with the experiment, it's wrong. That's a very materialist. That's like the materialist slogan, right?
Mhm.
And I do agree with materialism because it's a very useful framework. It's gotten us far. I used to like Jordan Peterson until Sam Harris slayed him on stage. And so now Sam Harris is like the big primate for me that I look up to. And I use his meditation app.
That's hilarious.
So-
He won the Enlightenment War.
You know what, Nico? I feel like we've established enough of a bond. Can you do me a favor? I want to watch together. And I mean, obviously, Danny would love if you also do this. But Nico, I want to watch it with you. And like, I will demolish. Did you say slay? I will demolish Sam Harris in return on behalf of Jordan Peterson.
I will tell you right away.
challenge.
I will tell you right away. I can't speak for Nico, of course, but I do know what Nico is doing right now, which is raising a lot of capital for the new part of the company. I don't think he's gonna have time to do that. But if he finds that time, I would be down. That would be interesting.
Dude.
Yeah, I mean, would you not agree, Danny, that Jordan Peterson?
No, he definitely. So I don't know if it was in that spirit because that's Sam's style and he's really good at it. I don't think he was doing it in that spirit necessarily, but no, definitely the arguments didn't go through for sure. I do see now which is interesting to me because I'm usually on Sam's side. I do see now where Sam, if and when I talk to him, I will raise this because there's a tendency there to keep a certain hardness of a line that is no longer required. And I want to investigate why he thinks it's still required. In that regard, I would say he needs to loosen up a little bit with these because he does insist on certain things. So I'll give you one very simple example where Sam makes, to my opinion, a very too rigid of a move, right? And that has nothing to do with this conversation with Jordan, but it's just one example that stands to me, which is that when he talks about the Doors of Perception, the book, right? And the reason that he says that logic doesn't run through for him is because the claim there is that the brain is a receiver, right? So the claim is that the brain receives some kind of a channel, and then the thing that doesn't make sense to him from a logical perspective is that how can it be that when you damage the brain partially with a baseball bat, with a car, or whatever happens, stroke, you get exactly very specific losses in cognitive abilities. Like sometimes it's super specific, like people would forget the name of tools, but they remember the names of people. It's like very specific, right? How can it be then, if the brain is a receiver, then right before death, people believe that the brain all of a sudden becomes completely complete and you can rise and recognize grandma and all that stuff. That's the argument, right? And I'm listening to this and I go, wait, really? You like, if you would want to steelman the other side, you can easily do that. Well, first of all, a receiver has a certain, it's by definition limiting the signal. So when you damage the brain, you limit it more exactly by that way that it is now structured. But if there is some core signature of I-ness that can recognize when it floats free from the dents of the receiver, it experiences its completeness again. That's a very straightforward explanation, even from a logical perspective, and yet he chooses to not see it, right? So that would be one example where I feel like his impeccable logic breaks, or at least he does not allow a very, very reasonable explanation to sip through because he doesn't adopt any of these ideas. In the conversation with Jordan Peterson, though, I would say that it's not even that Sam demolished him, even though he did make a few points that were very funny in the right moments. But it was that Jordan, I think, did a pretty poor job at owning the fact that he is appealing to a very emotional state versus truth claims about the subject matter, which is something that either he does not see or he simply does not acknowledge, which is weird because Jordan Peterson is pretty honest about most things. So that's how I want to analyze that interaction. And by the way, I watched all of them. I don't know if you watched all the versions, Yev, but there's not one, but four of them. And in every, I think there was one in Canada, one in London, one, yeah, and I watched all four of them. However many there are, I watched all of them. And it's definitely the case that Jordan is not doing a good enough of a job in the context of that kind of a conversation to shed light on the fact that he is speaking from a very different perspective. Like it's not even.
And I was and just to clarify also, I wasn't saying that I would do a better job of defending Jordan Peterson than Jordan Peterson. I would be like the Jordan Peterson advocate against Sam Harris, and
Can you do this?
Demolish that, because I don't think Jordan Peterson do a good job. Are you doing Jordan Peterson? No, I will not move my hands. I will hold the mic like a stand-up, and then when I'm done, I would drop it just in front of Sam.
Throw it at Sam. Just throw it at Sam.
Yeah, no, just I don't want to like.
It's interesting. Can I just have a small tangent on the side, because I happen to really like most things that Sam is doing. And I recently, somebody here in the chat, I think they said I really dislike Sam, and then we started talking. Oh, it was Casey, I think, and then we started talking about it. And I think if it wasn't him, then forgive me, but I think it was. But he said, I think maybe it's the facial expressions, and I thought that I had that thought before that maybe people, because I couldn't understand why. I have a friend who always laughs at that. Is like, why are people mad at Sam for being too reasonable? It's like, what is there to hate there? I don't understand. But then there's something about the style, I guess, which the facial expression is a central part of. But I think that I think it's maybe also the reason why a lot of people hate Jordan, because there's a certain bitterness there, right? Bitterness. But I think what most people don't understand, and it's not their fault, because both of them are experiencing chronic pain on a regular basis. That's the face of someone who's constantly suffering. Like they're literally in pain all the time. So in Sam's case, it's like tinnitus. No. There's a difference. So in Sam's case, it's tinnitus. In Jordan's case, it's he said he used to not be able to get up out of bed until like 5 p.m. before he could start functioning, and he was still a professor. So I think that's the thing, is not being appreciated. If somebody's like in chronic pain all the time, they're gonna make some facial expressions that maybe people that are more emotional, they kind of have a hard time ignoring it. They can't override that. They can't just listen to the words. They kind of absorb the full gestalt of how they express themselves in general. I think something tells me that's the case.
No, but this is the general problem. So 80% roughly of the people, let's say on average, in anything, are gonna just be wrong. So or maybe they'll be right, but for the wrong reasons. So they will judge they will use prejudice. Like Sam is a JEW, so quote unquote, like whatever it is, it's not, or so something you're definitely. Am I coming through? Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So something definitely you're hitting on that I love, which is they have emotional signatures. Okay. So like for Jordan, it's this, what did you?
Thank you, Evan.
What did you say? Sorry.
I didn't say anything.
Okay. It was like, it's not resentment. It's like. Irritation. Or
no, it's I forget the word too, but yeah. So there's a lot of despair. There's almost like I forget the word I use, but yeah.
But it's like that's been with him always. For Sam, it's like, and again, like that Enneagram personality typology, like Sam is typed democratically by the users of that typology online as a particular type 5 or something, or he's about suppressing emotion.
Mm-hmm. Even though he's a long-time meditator, but I think he might just have certain condition.
That's his type of meditation. Everyone has their type of meditation. He has his own. Here's what I think about Sam. I think he's a debater. And I've seen him not lose, but I've seen him debate such such rational, let's say, rabbis who believed in God, and he's an atheist, right? And then they argued to a stalemate where he was like, well, I guess your definition of God is so broad that I don't know why we're debating.
Yeah, you're talking about the Rabbi Wolpe, which was one of
Yeah,
Sam's most viral moments, right? When he's talking about Elvis. Yeah.
Oh, really? I don't think I know that one, but yeah.
Oh, I'll send it to you. It's hilarious, actually.
Okay. Yeah, and they've had several debates, I think, too. But there was that one, and I think it was where Volpe was with someone else. But so, you know, I think it's what comes with taking a stand or taking a choice. He's choosing to be an atheist and fight a lot of close-minded atheists and convert some of them to rationality. But in the process, he's going to do some collateral damage to people who are, well, to different kind of people. Like, I respect Sam, but I don't like his views. I liked him. I felt like his views on meditation and Buddhism misled me in particular ways that can only be kind of told narratively. But I think he has some, and again, it's about his closed-mindedness, even though this is what's difficult. If you test him on the big five, where this whole closed, open, whatever can be scored, he's going to be in the 95th percentile of open-mindedness. But he's talking to Jordan Peterson, who's more open-minded, as if he's less open-minded. And that's the problem. So
I'm not so sure that he saw him that way. I understand your analysis. I'm not 100% sure that's how he sees Jordan. I think I think Sam sees it in a slightly different, through a slightly different map. He just stands on his points very strongly, and I think it started with basically his understanding that there's a deep delusion in the American culture. It started with 9/11, right? That's where it's all started, where he saw a deep delusion in the American culture as to the true dangers of blind faith. And because it wasn't just in other religions, but it was also in the American religion, he went very hard at criticizing the one here back home in the way that he saw fit, because there was a certain strong stance level kind of communication that was required to kind of shake it out of people. And this is something they talked about a lot, which is that the reason that he knows it works is because he has enormous amounts of people emailing him, thanking him, like, hey, I didn't think about that. They were reasoned out of it. So he saw it as a good thing. And then he also had the possibility to kind of bring in the meditation part, which he thinks is way better than any of the religions on offer, because they're the most secular in their dispensations, because they're based on practice and not on belief. So I think that's where he's coming from, because when Jordan raps about the, whatever it is about Christianity, I understand completely where Sam is coming from, because when you in the world of understanding what meditation can actually do, and then watching how emotionally hijacked Jordan most of the time is, it's clear to you from the perspective of somebody who's been practicing any form of meditation that Jordan simply does not belong on the seat that he put himself on, because he does not understand what is possible for the human condition. He does not understand, because he never practiced it. So there's a difference between believing something that might make sense to you logically, and then practicing something that you know for a fact works because you experience it in your body. The somatic experience will always trump any kind of mental conviction. And ironically, what Sam is combating there is the delusional conviction of things he has no business of being so certain about. That is the almost slight, and this is the word I used before, disdain. That's the word. And that exists also from Sam's perspective, but he obviously is very respectful. But I can even understand that. By the way, in the same way that I said that academics are reasonably annoyed when somebody comes into the territory and put in none of the work of understanding what is possible in that.
Okay, but it's not. and if I'm being emotional, it's on purpose and controlled. But it's not.
You personally, sorry,
understandable.
just so I understand what the context of what you're saying. You personally, or
So what I was gonna say is like, but it's not okay for when I come to my friends and who I thought were friends, but actually their ideology and their close-mindedness precedes their friendship.
okay.
And so then it's not okay. Then it's at the level where it's not okay, where it's not reasonable to me
Yeah.
as a human
Yeah,
being.
yeah. But right.
And to-
Well,
right?
after all, it's also a show. Quick
but
question:
bro-
CNB fabrication. Is that Simon from YouTube? I only have time to maybe bring on another person for a few words because I'm going to adjourn in a moment, and I promised Simon to bring him on if he comes on. So I just need a verification, Simon. If that's you, if you are, oh no, he jumped off. Okay. Yeah, because if it was you, I would bring you on for a few moments. But if it isn't, sorry guys, I don't have time to bring anybody else on. Continue, Yev. Sorry, go ahead. I hope I hope I didn't knock it out of your brain. I just had to comment here.
No. I wanted to switch for a sec. Not switch, but have you heard of Ken Wilber integral theory?
Yes, I have a big problem with people like Ken. I will explain why. Because
Wait.
sure.
And this is related. So like, which part of his model, right? Because like
No, it's right the now, whole style. It's the fact that his book. I have his book right here. I can pull it up right now. The really thick one, right? The reason it's this big is because 80% of it is trying to educate you how to use his language, and there's no need for that. It's more of a telltale sign of a charlatan to me, and as albeit a very sophisticated one, because there's English. It's good enough. You don't need to invent a whole language. It's either super pretentious or it would usually when somebody's like want to teach you a whole new lingo, like literally a whole new lingo, is because they're trying to pull a wool over your face. And he, to some degree, he does, because I can reconstruct his entire model in very simplistic terms. There's no need for all of these sections and sectors. Like, there's no need for any of that. And they don't really. They're most of them are completely arbitrary. They have nothing to do with what is functionally operative in our psyche. And if he would just be going about it, at least like presenting it in a, without that whole other part. I mean, that's the thing that really kind of like got me off that, because I have a friend who's, he swears by him. Also, like the friend that I'm talking about is a super smart guy, Harvard educated, and I love him. And he really loves Ken Wilber, and he gifted me his book, and so I read it. And I said, Davol, that's no, man. Like, that's like I don't know. And even look at him speak, right? I'm looking at the style. He literally feels like a snake. Like he's like a wolf in sheep's clothes. Like he's a snake. Like there's this like it's not. I don't. No. And yeah. And it's not. But I'm not speaking about the style. I read his book. His most of the concepts are super arbitrary. I don't know where he brings them out from for no reason whatsoever. And the whole new language.
I mean, he's done psychedelics.
So who cares? Who cares?
No, but
yeah.
But
who cares? It has no merit to me whatsoever. Like if you I've met so many people who have done so many psychedelics and they learn nothing. This is why, to me, that's not necessarily a direct path. In fact, in the movie, and this is just a side comment, in the movie, we're not going to be using the word psychedelic once, because it has nothing to do with psychedelics. It has to do with understanding reality, which is the way I perceive it. That's my art. The art is truth and language. So, and they're interrelated, by the way. So, I because I have such a fine ear for how language is being used, I'm very sensitive to when I know somebody's misusing it, because I know you don't need to do any of that. And because he is very smart and very capable, I know he's doing that on purpose. He wants to draw territory so you come into his world, and now he can play whatever. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying somebody who's like interested in he might be, but he's much more interested in the power and the control and the attention, and like that to me is very clear. He's a very different kind of player than Sam or Jordan. And I would even go as far as to say, to his credit, which is interesting, because I've listened to him a lot, because I never judge a book by its cover. Clearly, I read it cover to cover. It's a very long book. But also, I listened to him talk a lot, which is what kind of gain a deeper understanding of the person. So I would even go as far as to say, I do think that he is a more advanced of a person than Sam and Jordan. I do think that he is more advanced, but the way he's playing the communication game is just uh, it's rotten. Like,
What's this guy's name?
Ken Wilber.
Adolf Hitler. No, don't ban me TikTok. This is for the sake of humor.
I don't know. It was like I didn't like the Mein Kampf. It wasn't my favorite.
The more I hear about this guy, the less.
Yeah. It's I don't know why it's a little bit completely unrelated, but it is funny. It's an old Zang Galifianakis bit, and he says, whenever people try to talk to me about 9/11, I always go, I didn't like 9/11.
Yeah, Norm Macdonald, as always, he did that too.
But please, now that I finished shitting on Ken Wilber, please tell me why you like him.
Ken Wilber is the name. Ken Wilber. Yeah, we're gonna get into this at some point.
Okay, good. No, I would love it. Now I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna listen why you love him so much. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, okay. I mean, because it's gonna tie everything together. Like,
ooh.
No, just like me disagreeing, just like plain disagreeing, and then like, what is truth? Like, what is truth here? So like, you have a friend. You've described a friend of yours. So I'm now on his. Put me in his column. Like,
sure.
And I hear everything you said, and it's so interesting. Like, and we can't just do it right now because you actually know this guy as much as I do, at least. And you. The third time you said style, you said it's not about style. But
no. In addition to everything, in addition to everything, there's also a thing that corroborates my suspicion.
What if it's all style, and
I read the content. I read the everything, the way he thinks. Like, if you don't understand what he's trying to say and what he's about after that book, then what is this book for? It's this thing, bro. Hold on, I'll pull it up.
My curriculum required me to read a couple. They are big.
He reminds me of David Foster Wallace. Just has the big Infinite Jest book.
But very different. By the way, I read David Foster Wallace's biography. I was like, there were, yeah. Which one is it? Can you show me? Oh, sex
ecology and spirituality. Yeah. Look at this thing.
Okay,
and up until here, he basically teaches you language. Like, it's like.
Okay. So right there, let me say something. Right there, let me say something. So he is, in a way, a follower of
Christ.
Heidegger. I don't know if he's a follower of Christ.
No, I'm kidding. I was totally kidding. Yes, Heidegger.
No, but see, to me, that would be very important. Like, I can tell you later, but why later? But he's a follower of Heidegger. Heidegger, I think it was Heidegger. Yeah. Heidegger invented this style of philosophy, actually phenomenology, where you kind of, if you're going to do good philosophy, you have to do that. You have to invent a new language.
This is exactly where we disagree. But yeah. It's I now I understand. It's actually interesting because that explains everything. But
so there you go. So I just, because I think he's advanced. I'm not saying he's perfect. I mean, for all we know.
I agree with you. I think he's a very advanced human. He almost looks like it's
Okay.
from another planet. And I do know that he tested for that thing where he managed to control some of the brainwaves and everything.
Oh,
I'm
really?
aware. He is more advanced
master
than Sam and
meditator,
Jordan,
yeah.
for sure.
Okay, so staying on that, he has a theory of levels. So when you talk about advanced, what does that mean? There are levels. So he calls them red, orange, yellow, green, magenta. So kind of like, okay,
Like the chakras.
now listen. So here's the trap here, right? I think, again, the proverbial 80% of the people won't like this theory. I'm explicitly not including you in these people, by the way, but 80% won't like it.
I'm not even in any of the levels. I'm
Yeah,
I'm in the zero.
You're trans. You're trans level.
That's hilarious.
So for some, it would trigger like, oh, he thinks he's better than us. So he like carefully avoids, I think, like putting him, whatever. What's interesting about the levels, okay, is that, so red is like archaic, all right? So people believe in myth. Orange is like what the scientific revolution overthrew, the Dark Ages.
Mm-hmm.
Yellow is the scientific revolution. Green is where he puts postmodernism.
Mm-hmm.
And then above green, he puts whatever is the first he calls integral layer.
Integral layer where you start trusting your own intuition about reality. Yes.
Sorry.
Did you hear what I said?
I heard start trusting intuition.
It's the level where you first start trusting your intuition about reality. That's what distincts. That's okay. Why it's the new level of the levels, basically.
Okay, great. Yes. So one characteristic of these levels is that to successfully go up to the next level, you have to include the previous level's perspective.
Or to be able to accommodate, to be able to wear them, so to speak, in any given point. Yes.
Somehow, yeah. And again, this is difficult. How? So his mantra is transcend and include. If depending on where this book was written, he uses it.
God can understand your perspective. Yes.
Yeah. So he, so I guess, so you, oh, where was I going? Sam Harris he's like whatever's above green, a magenta, who has not incorporated the green. So he's at war against green. He's above green, at war against green postmodernism. That's where he is. Jordan Peterson, I need a pause.
So you're saying that just to clarify, so I understand, you're saying that Sam would be a level where he went above the green, but he does not have this element of inclusion. He does not know how to wear the previous one.
Yes.
Okay. This is exactly why, by the way, I find Ken Wilber's model very inadequate, because it does not describe the real. It does not describe the real experience of life and everything, that the way that we. And I know that he says it's all fluid and it's just like definitions to kind of keep it on the map. But I even see that reality itself does not answer to these kind of categories.
No, but let's have a, for real, because you've invested so much that I feel like 1 hour of us talking about it, you'll derive a lot of value out of it.
Oh, I would absolutely.
But a lot of things will suddenly make sense.
But I do have because this is a subject I really care about, and I like this kind of back and forth.
Not here. That's why. Yeah.
No, I understand, but I'm also cutting you off a lot, and I do want to hear what you wanted to say, the full thing. I do want to hear that. So go ahead.
No, I was done, but yeah.
Wow, you sound like a disgruntled wife. You're just like, no, it's fine. I was
No,
done.
that's your perception. That was totally not it. I was just exhaling wrong.
No,
No, I meant, I mean, you want to like get into it. It's 3 a.m.
No, you're right. Yeah, I definitely want to. I mean, 3 for you, 1:20 for me. I definitely want to get some sleep. But let's. What's your schedule looking like tomorrow night?
Let me. I'm free tomorrow night.
Cool. So let's table this and then or shelf it. What is it? What would that be? What's the metaphor here? Let's table it because the book is on the table, and then I will I would love to have this conversation tomorrow, and we can also, because I don't want people to feel like I'm ignoring them. I might bring a person here and there to kind of comment as well if they want to, so we make it more inclusive. And also, there was a lot of words here in Russian. Let's see, my Russian is so rusty at this point. Каждый красный охотник. Wait, let me finish. I know you can read it in 3 seconds. My Russian is so terrible. Оранжевый желает желти знать зеленый теплый сидит. Wow. I need to start reading in Russian more because I'm terrible at this.
Can I give you a clue?
No, just tell me what it says.
Well, it's a mnemonic device like Roji Biv.
Okay.
So it's like the way Artica put it is like every is red. So it's like for everyone, it's like red, orange, yellow. Where's your Russian? Did you understand that this is what?
Yeah, I understood it was colors, but yeah.
Okay, so the mnemonic is каждый охотник желает знать, где сидит фазан, and it means like every
hunter wishes to know where sits the what?
Pheasant.
Okay.
The bug. Whoa. The bird.
The bird. Где what's the rest of it? Где what? Голубой сидит.
Sorry. Где?
With the blue.
Where sits the pheasant? So every hunter wishes to know where sits the pheasant, but obviously in Russian it gives you the colors.
Okay, got it. Interesting. Huh. What does that mean?
Roji Biv. Do you know that one?
No.
Red, orange, yellow, green.
Oh, by the way, sorry, before I keep forgetting this. So somebody here before, I think it was Buzz something, they asked if Hebrew is related to the code. There's definitely some Hebrew looking characters in there. So if you're still here, know that what you saw, a lot of people see. It kind of looks a lot like Aleph and some other letters. Continue.
I wouldn't be surprised that it is in there, like primordial language.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, so Roy G. Biv is, because you're not American, this is why. Is an American.
I am an American.
Did you go through?
No, I didn't grow up here, but I identify as an American.
Yeah, sorry, I meant like not. You didn't go to kindergarten.
No. I didn't grow up.
So
here.
Roy G. Biv is for red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. So it's a mnemonic device for the colors of the rainbow. So in Russian, it's a sentence.
Got it. It looks like a Russian sentence. Papilo is saying, "Oh, okay, never mind. That's a commercial." What's up, Mikian? Okay, I'm excited. Let's table this.
Awesome.
Holarchy sausage is what we are. By the way, Danny, I love the image you created of the sausage. It's great. Love you too, Mikael. People, yeah. So, guys, Nico, Yev, I deeply appreciate you guys. This is like the kinds of conversation I live for. It's amazing. Thank you so much for entertaining this and coming here and having fun with this. Nico, if you have time tomorrow, please come by as well. We'll do a little three-way again. That can be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we won't have time tomorrow, but the day after or the next time, definitely.
We'll keep doing this. But yeah, we have a date for tomorrow, and I'll call you in advance to kind of set it up.
Awesome.
Sending love to both of you. Just a quick thing. First of all, obviously go follow Nico and Yev. Nico McKay, NIKOMACKAY. Again, it's NIKOMACKAY. And Yev Kirpichev. I never know. Kirpichesky. Again, remind me the actual handle, Yev.
Yeah, should I change my name here to my handle?
It would be easier for me to refer people to you.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's also not McKay. It's Nico Mackey. I'm totally batched it. So, and then
neuroconverging. It's like neurodivergent, but neuroconvergent, and in the present continuous.
Nice. It is converging. Okay, so these are the two handles you should definitely follow. If you want to follow me on TikTok and Instagram, it will be Danny Goller. If you want to follow me on X, it will be Goller Danny. On Twitch is LaserX83, and on YouTube it is Dango Thoughts, DANGO Thoughts. I have to mention that I've added a membership program that includes early access to all the videos I'm putting out, Zoom calls with me, both private and with the group, depending on the tier, and weekly lives aside from the daily lives for members only, and there will be a lot of videos from my personal life that will only live on YouTube membership. I appreciate everybody who are coming here and creating this community. I deeply appreciate you all. I appreciate all the members that joined that allow me to do this more full time, and all the incredible people that are contributing not just their money but also their time, like Ebony and Ben, to help these projects progress. Ebony is managing Discord, so is Lovey Widows and Azamun. And Ebony is also constantly gifting people memberships. I'm just no words. I'm so grateful for this because it's tremendously helpful, because it helps crank up and grow the community quicker. And my job now is to make sure that these people want to stay members, so that maybe they will re-sign up next month. So I'm deeply grateful to all of you guys. Thank you so much for doing all of this. Deep appreciation. If you want to find more about the project with the laser, you can go to codeofreality.com, codeofreality.com. If you're on TikTok, you can follow the link tree in the description in my bio, that a lot of these links are there. We have a movie that we're working on the subject. If you want to watch the trailer, both the link tree and the trailer on YouTube, in the description you have the GoFundMe page. If you want to contribute to the film is going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be talking about not just this discovery, but humanity as a whole. And we're going to make sure that the movie is fun and impactful. So again, guys, thank you so much. I deeply appreciate the entire community. Speechless, very grateful. Love you all. Peace and love. Brother Yev, love you, man. I fucking love you. Ciao.
Fucking love you.
See you guys.